Hey, Shalom family. Sorry. Just heard you sitting out here. Hopefully it's okay. The view's alright. Nothing to write home about, but hopefully it's better than just sitting there with nothing to look at. Shalom. I need to get something to drink. We're gonna go get started for today. Glad Shalom. Peace be upon you on this first day of the week. We'll get started in just a second. Did everybody have a great night? Prayerfully you did. Prayerfully you got some sleep, all that stuff. Praise God. The view's all right. At least there's some water in it. In and out. Oh. Wow. Okay. Those who are all right, those who are on this platform over here, I'm gonna have to restart. They've already said they're gonna restrict the live session. Already, they've already said they're restricting it. And we didn't even start. I didn't even get a chance to speak. So I apologize for those that are on this platform. I can't say platform names to the end, but if you're over here or if you're on the platform that ends up going off, just literally 15 seconds from now, come right back on. All right? If you can do that for me, I greatly appreciate it, but we got to restart. I'm coming back, and the first thing I saw up here was literally something just saying, oh yeah, we can't, we're restricting your live session, and we haven't even started yet. So if they're already restricting the live session, we haven't even started yet, we're not going to play games like that. They might restrict it again, who knows? We're trying to do the best we can with what we got. I guess I just realized it's going to be a busy street. Prayerfully you guys will be able to hear me all right. I'll make sure I project if it gets crazy. It is a Sunday, so most persons aren't going to be showing their face until it's time for them to go to, to go to service or go to the beach or whatever it is they do around here. So I apologize. So those of you who are over here, they've already said they're going to restrict this, so just go ahead and allow me. You said you did day with Grandma since Friday. Oh, that's always free time. Praise God. All righty. I don't like it. That's always great, right? Yeah, so y'all over here, just give me a second. I'm gonna end this live, but literally come right back on the same channel, okay? So just go ahead and give me a little bit of time to post back up. I'd say as soon as this ends, no more than 15 seconds from now, we'll be back in front of you guys. It's weird too, I know what's causing. Well, anyways. All right, so just give me a little bit of time. We'll come back on, we'll get started, okay? I apologize, but they've already restricted the line, so you're not gonna mess around with them today on this. I'll be right back. All right. Okay, for everybody else, for all, let's go ahead and just get started. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi, ¿cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi, ça va? Ni hao, namaste, osaya nikitabuya, ohio. Asi, manut, wigwan, kumsa, kumsamida, aloha, ciao, ensemble. Habari gani, akwaba, magasi, itase. Jambu, Bibidi Kofi, the Fry, Kokatan, and the Wewe, Bokato, Bokata, Grand Rising, Bakwata, Bakala, Chumikava, and the Ai Kovai, well, credit to Servant of Christ, Mashalom King. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We're here with the word today. It is a Sunday, and also it is Yom Alav on the Hebrew calendar, meaning that for both of our calendars that most persons are using throughout the world, listening to me right now, we are actually on the same time. So we're on the same time, same day. I actually was freaked out a little bit because you're not used to, we live in kingdom mind, but we know we're still, in a certain sense, in the land of our captivity. And so as we're in the land of our captivity, having this kingdom mind, etc. One of the things that's interesting is you get like caught up on stuff. So I came outside and I saw, a half moon, I guess we'll call it, and I freaked out. I freaked out because in my mind I was like, wait a minute, half moon, but it's not half the month yet. And I was like, oh no, am I telling everybody the wrong thing? When I legit had just seen, that we started with a new moon not that long ago. But in my head I was freaking out. So, and then it took me like, it probably felt a lot longer than it was. It was probably only like maybe 5 seconds, but it felt like I was really afraid. And I was like, oh yeah, duh. Like new moon turns to half moon or a half moon, right? First, within a week, first quarter. Then it becomes a full moon. That's half a month. Then it becomes half moon again. That's a third or 3/4, and then it goes back to nothing, which turns to a new moon next month. So I don't know. At first, it's like be thinking about stuff like that, but I was freaking out for like a nice 5 seconds yesterday. Oh no, I can't believe that. But we're teaching the right thing. Our calendars are lined up. We thank you. We praise God for you guys being on with us today. We appreciate you. We know you could be doing a plethora of things, but the fact that you decided to spend some time with us, it means a whole lot to us. Thank you so much. So we're going to get ready to say shalom to everybody in peace. Hopefully, once again, all is well with Lottie Dottie and everybody. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate your time. I'm on. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll have Facebook on. So I'm not supposed to say names of platforms. We'll have other platforms on later for those who would like to see those platforms. But today, Bishop Ofori, thank you again for being on. We appreciate you. Hopefully everybody is doing well. We'll get ready to say shalom to everybody as best as we can in just a second. Well, matter of fact, I guess we will. If you want, I'm not sure if we have a thematic verse or thematic chapters, verses for today. We have a bunch of chapters and verses we'll be kind of dabbling in. You probably want to focus on Habakkuk chapter 1 and chapter 2 for some of what I'm saying. But there's going to be a lot of different places. But anyways, let's get ready to say our Bible pledge. If you can stand to your feet and reverence His word in whichever way you are able. We thank you for doing so in advance. While you're doing that, let's go ahead and say shalom to everybody. Peace. How you doing on all the different platforms that you're joining us on? How you doing, Sister Carla, Sister Beck, Minister Tracy, Sister Barbara, Brother Alton, Minister Tracy, Sky Ghost, is it? Thank y'all for the love, appreciation. How you doing, May Lawson? How you doing, Sister Shirley, Edward, Brett, Sid, Joseph, I think I said Sister Shirley. If not, please forgive me. AKZ, Russell, Sister May. Sister May, we need to get you set up with our stuff for Maryland meetup and everything. So we are going to more than likely be meeting somewhere in Baltimore for 4 hours of power. Virtually, we'll be on Zoom and we'll record it. And so we'll be on Zoom and we'll record it on YouTube as well. But we'll have 4 hours of power happening. That'll be September the 13th. So those that are in Maryland, want to come over to Maryland, we'll be somewhere around the Baltimore area. Maybe we'll do another city, but probably just be somewhere within Baltimore, maybe Townsend-ish or something like that. I'll try to figure out a spot and get you guys an address. We'll make it during the day. We'll probably do it outside somewhere as well. But that's a Saturday. So if you're able to join us on September 13th to make some time out to come to that area, I will have more information for you guys soon. And we'll make sure that everybody, at least definitely those in Maryland, D.C., Virginia, will get the information. But some of you in Pennsylvania might want to come. I don't know how far persons want to come and say hey to each other. But those of us in the Maryland, D.C., Virginia area, we'd love to be able to say hi and shalom to each and every one of you. So thank you everybody for being on. I think I said Brother Dwayne. If not, how you doing, big bro? Keith, Andre, Money Real King, everybody. Bold Servant. Oh my greatness, still haven't contacted Bold Servant. I apologize. Getting my life together. But yeah, thank you all today. Thank you for being on with us. We appreciate you once again. If you're able to repeat after me for the Bible pledge, feel free to. How you doing? Angel? Shalom to you. Peace, peace, peace. Hopefully you and Sister Nadine are doing very, very well. How you doing, Sister Audrey? And praying for you guys and hoping that all works out well been looking at as many posts as I can. Tried to reach out a few times, but I know there's probably some confusion on what's going on there. But thank you for being on. Appreciate you all. Alrighty, so how you doing, Sister Jennifer? If I didn't say so already, let's go ahead and get started. You can put your right hand, your device, or your Bible in the air. Just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. In this will I trust. For your chashva is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yechava. Aman. Shem, his name is authority. Let it be done unto us. You may be seated or go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. Tada, Masha Bachim. Thank you, family, for being on. May Yah Barak, At Shalom. May his blessings and peace be upon thee and thine house, right? Anai, bites. And may it be upon you as well. So we're thankful and grateful for another opportunity to roll with y'all again. All right, and thank you so much. Oh, I messed up before we get into this clean hands, right? All right, even though it's all plasticky today. Plasticky and styrofoam today. Bad example. All righty, how you doing, Brother Darius? Sister Nadine. What's up? What's up? What's up? Oh, that made my day right there. How are you doing? Praise God. Praise Yah. Still do have some things for the girls too. I didn't forget them. I need, if you get a chance, what I need more than anything else, I need the new address. Not on here, obviously, but off on the side. I need the new address. so yeah. And hopefully you're feeling better. I've seen some of the stuff you're doing in and out of the hospital and all that stuff. So prayerfully things are getting better. I'm glad. I'm hoping that everything continues in the union the way it's supposed to. It seems like it is. Praise Yah. All righty. Praise Yah. All right. I gotta get myself back in order. That's a shouting piece right there. Okay. All right. So I want to talk today from the theme. Prayerfully, I'm saying the theme correctly. The theme for today is don't stop what Yah has started. All right? Don't stop what Yah has started. Do not stop what the Most High Yah has started. Right? Welcome back, Sister Snet. So don't stop what Yah has started. Also, in that, in parentheses, we have some points. Right? Because if whatever Yah has started, right? And basically, if you don't stop what Yah has started, means also He's using you to start it. So don't stop what you have started either. Right, but our points that we're going to go through today, these 3 S's or 3 STs, even if you will, is going to be start, stay, and stand. Start, stay, and stand. Those are our 3 points. The main theme for today, once again, is don't stop what Yah has started. But our 3 points that we're really going to be focusing in on over and over and over again is start, stay. Start, stay, and stand. Start, stay, and stand. Start, stay, and stand. Sorry, I got trash flying all over. I don't want to litter. Take care of take care of the earth made by Yah, right? So we're going to talk about today, don't stop what Yah has started. Our 3 points we're going to be talking about over and over again is start, stay, and stand. Right? This is the day Yahweh has made. Come on, let us rejoice and be glad inside of it. Once again, mic check, 1, 2. Can everybody see me, hear me okay? How you doing, big brother Charles? How you doing? Hey, Belfast. Is that the best you got? I'll go ahead and let you stay. Come on. Take another one, because that's just straight cornball. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. All right. April Samuel. Shalom. Hey, Brother Keith. Oh, okay. Okay, Sister Samuel. Hey, how are you doing? Praise Yah. We're not abusing. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I don't know what the first message was, but okay, cool. If you're not, I don't know, it seemed like it was. But either way, start, stay, and stand. Right? Don't stop what Yah has started. Start, stay, and stand. So when you go to Habakkuk chapter 2, a lot of us know Habakkuk 2:2, right? Somebody just tell me, even without looking it up, even if you just know a piece of it. If we were to say Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, pretty much everybody only focuses, and I'm not mad at it, it's a huge piece, but most of us only really focus on like one verse, right? What does that verse say? I'm not saying you don't know anything else. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if we go to Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, most of us usually going to focus in on one verse. What does that verse say? Right? If you don't know it just off of Habakkuk 2, I'm going to tell you what it is, the beginning of it, and you can finish it for me. You ready? All right, it goes like this. It goes like this. Write down the vision and what? Y'all know that verse, right? Write down the vision and do what with it? Once it's written down, we make it what? Make it clear, right? Make it plain. Make it so that everybody be able to see it, right? Write down the vision and make it plain upon the tablets that he or she or he that read, so that he that readeth it may runneth with it. How you doing, babe? My wife is on the Honorable Alma. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest. Check her out on Bloom and Flourish 3 as she's growing that platform right now. Prayerfully, you guys have been seeing some of the stuff we've been posting and sharing. And love you, babe. Thank you for being on as always. So write down the what? The vision, and make it plain upon the tablets that when somebody else sees what you're doing and sees the vision clearly, they will do what? They will take what you're doing, use their gift and their calling and propel it, help, and they will run with it, take it to another level that you within yourself, by yourself, would not be able to do. Praise God, all right? So write down the what? The vision, and make it plain upon the tablets, make it plain upon, write it out, make it plain when you write it out, so that anybody that sees it, this clearly is what it is. Stir up the gift in a sense, right? Now watch this though. What does this have to do with start, stay, and stand? What is interesting, the interesting thing is that Habakkuk chapter 2 is Yahweh saying that I'm giving you a vision, but it's the second vision that he's given him so far in Habakkuk chapter 2. A lot of persons might not know this. So this is a reaction by Yah because of the reaction by Habakkuk. So what are you saying, Pastor? Okay. So in chapter 1, what happens is Yah tells Habakkuk that the Chaldeans, who we continue to go back and forth with, were part of that statue that we've seen in Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 and Revelation. We talked about Revelation 12 and 13. We've been talking about that a lot the last weeks or so since we finished our Body Shot series. We've been talking about that a lot, right? And so you have this situation where Yah is saying the Chaldeans are coming. And we dealt with Chaldeans, we dealt with leaders, we dealt with these persons who try to be emperors, we dealt with persons who take away our culture and the land they get from that. And so he knows what's coming. When Yah says, I'm going to allow this bad thing to take place, I'm going to allow my people, therefore your people, to go through some things, right? Habakkuk is taken aback and he flips out. He doesn't like what's coming. And he begins to tell the Most High how he can't allow this to happen. He starts to argue with the Most High a little bit. He starts to say, hey, how could you let this happen? Don't do this. This can't be your will. Look, you said that you would love us and you would take care of us and do this. You know what they're going to do to us. You know what they're going to do to our women. You know what they're going to do to our children. You know what they're going to attempt to do. You know how they're going to try to change our belief system. They're going to move us from our land. There's only going to be a few of us left. And the ones that are left are going to be under complete control and watchful eye of the enemy. He says, yeah, you can't do this. Right? That's Habakkuk chapter 1. Right? That's basically, and how you doing, Sister Joy? How you doing, Jubo? Thanks for being part of the community. That's Habakkuk 1. Habakkuk 1 where something's off. How you doing, Juliet? Thanks for being part of the community. Right? That's what's really going on here in Habakkuk chapter 1. He's freaking out because Yah has shown him some things that are going to happen that he doesn't want to happen to his people. And by the way, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with that, right? Now, many of us should really want something crazy to happen to our people. But this is what Habakkuk chapter 1 is. It's basically Yah says, I'm showing you some bad times that are about to take place. Habakkuk freaks out, right? And by the way, nothing wrong with it. Yah doesn't stop him. Yah doesn't chide him. Yah listens to the freak out. Or as our children would say, Yah listens to the crash out. Right nowadays, if you say Yah listens to the freak out, our children would say pause, right? But Yah listens to the crash out. Right? Habakkuk crashes out. And after he finishes crashing out, this is what he does. He says, I'm going to stay. He goes on what's called his watch. Right? He goes back to be in a position to where he can stand guard, get back in position as the prophet of Israel, as the man of Yah, as the person who's receiving Yah's word. He says, okay, what you said, it took me aback. But in chapter 2, verse 1, when you read Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 1, don't just start at verse 2. When you read verse 1, you'll see Habakkuk after he's finished crashing out. He says, all right, I stood, I've said what I got to say. I got it off my chest. You're still Yah. So he said, I'm going to stand back on watch. I'm going to get back on the wall. I'm going to get back where I'm called to be. I'm going to get back in position. I've spoke my piece, and now I'm going to stay in position. And I'm going to hear what you have to say. Right? And then Yah gives him a vision. He says, what I'm about to give you is Habakkuk, cool. First thing first, get a pen and a pen. Get in the pen and the pad. Right? Get your chisel with your tablet or your stone tablet. Get whatever it is. Right? Write this upon the tablets of your heart. But he said, whatever you do, write down this vision I'm about to give and make it plain upon the tablets. That anybody else who reads what I'm telling you is about to happen, right? They might be able to get it and run with it and not be caught up in it. So this is one of the differences between us and what a lot of y'all, what we do and what we should do. Right? Amen, friend. So he sees something that is detrimental. He sees something that's about to change the future of his people. He sees that his people have been guilty of a lot of different things and now they're about to get punished. He does not like what's about to happen, but he didn't stop. He stayed. That's one of the biggest things we can take out of this. When he's at the point where he's writing down the vision, this is the second vision he's been given, or at least let's say the second part of the vision. So yes, he was given a vision that said that bad things were going to happen, but he also is being given the next part of the vision. After he crashed out, Yah said, okay, cool, I heard you in the crash out, right? Now I need you to hear me, right, as I continue in the word. I need you to hear me as I continue to give you what you need. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? Right? So he said, I got the crash. He said, I heard you. I get it. He said, now this is what I need you to do for me. I need you to listen to the vision that's coming. And a lot of times what happens is Yah shows us a vision and we get involved in his will, we get involved in SOC, we get involved in Israel, we get involved in kingdom, we get involved with congregation matters, with assembly matters, etc. We get involved with family, friends, etc. And we're cool. All of a sudden, we see something down the pike is coming, or we're going through something that's bad, and we're like, oh, okay, and we stop, as if what Yah says stops just because bad things are on the horizon. That's right, you got to eat the whole scroll. Right? We act like there's nothing else that we can do, that we just have to accept the worst. Matter of fact, some persons will not even accept the first part, which is some persons don't want to hear that bad things are there and we might need to stand through them or stay in them and stay in, if we, right, whatever we've started, we might have to stay in what we've started, even if some of the things that happen are bad. That's right, we got to recall and remember that we are protected in the midst of it all, right? Right? We have to remember that in the midst of it all, we're still protected. But a lot of us, what happens is that bad things start to come up and we go, oh, well, I'm out. It's too much. I didn't sign up for all this. Persons are talking, right? You'd be surprised how many persons start live sessions and stuff, or start getting big in the communities in social media, and then all of a sudden, persons start talking bad about him, and then you don't see him post anymore. Well, guess what? If you posting something, be ready, because there's somebody out there to tell you why you trash. Doesn't mean you're trash, but be ready. You need to be aware. Like when we talk about baptism, one of the things that we talk about and we teach for baptism, and we're going to start doing a lot of stuff with all these holy days coming up and teachings on holy days for quite a bit, because we're coming through a big, huge season of holy days, right? But a lot of persons don't want to talk about, hey, when you get baptized, what happened with Christ? We know that we go down to the old man and we come up and all that stuff. But what happened? What happened with Christ? Christ got baptized and then was led by Holy Spirit into the wilderness, into being separated from society, and fasted from society for 40 days and 40 nights. And while still fasting afterwards, so day 41, 42, 43, whenever, we don't know when, But then the devil comes in while he's still fasting, 3 separate occasions, and tempts him further. He had to be tempted even as the Messiah. So you don't think that once you're baptized, you'll have to be tempted. You see? But we don't discuss those things. We just go, everything's going to be fine. I'm going to walk around and everything's going to be, I'm going to be skipping around and everything's going to be, right? The daisies will be blooming and the bird and the chicory shall be shall be pumping their chest and tweeting sweet sounds in my ear. But there's going to be some days where there's storms. And you have to learn how to walk in the midst of the storm. And the midst of the storm is the best place because it's the calm. There's calm before the storm, but then there's calm in the midst of the storm. But you can't get to the calm if you're not in the middle of the tornado. If you're not in the middle of the tornado, you're getting messed up. And by the way, if I'm in the middle of the storm, as I wash around me, I'm going to see everything else getting torn apart. Everything else around me is getting messed around. I'm in the middle of craziness, but I'm protected while in it. They're trying to find any excuse. They had already tested it on persons before in different ways. They tested to see how many persons would get the jab and stay inside all day, right? They tested to see how many persons would allow them to go ahead and do whatever and right, and put them in a position where they took away your weapons and then told you, hey, go ahead and march against persons who are now shooting your children with rubber bullets and stuff. Now we're getting to a place where they're throwing all this stuff to where they're putting military all over the place. Military in LA, military in DC, military zones in Texas, military zones in Arizona, military zones in New Mexico, right? Telling Chicago, we about to come up there and mess y'all up too, and really they're gonna come through the whole state, but mainly focus on the places where people aren't voting correct. Like it's getting, what y'all said is going to happen. It's starting to happen in many ways. And here's the thing, even in all this stuff that's happening, he still said that's not necessarily the end of what's going to happen. He said these are the beginning of sorrows. And so many persons who are so strong, you're going to see begin to run. Well, liberals and conservatives, watch this. If you're in the kingdom of heaven, you're not you shouldn't be a Republican or a Democrat anyways. There's only one government, a way of governance for us. There's only one. There's only one kingdom. That's why we call it a holy nation. Holy. Put a W for that H. That's what that word actually means. Holy. Hakodash. No. I'm with you. I'm just saying, yeah. I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you too. We're on the same page, right? And welcome. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say the name. Black. Oh, Black Amigo Gang. Okay. Cool. So, Black Friend Gang. How you doing? So yeah. So we have to recognize and realize that all these things are going on, and we're not having. That's right. We're tempted of the enemy, and we're not having conversations. Like if we really say we believe this, we went over what Psalm 122 and 123, and in Psalm 122 and in Psalm 123, what did we find? What did we see? We saw that reads like a revolution, right? A revolution. That's a revolutionary mindset. That's revolutionary rhetoric, if you will, right? Psalm 122. I was glad when they said unto me, "Let us go into the house of the house of the Lord." Now may Israel say, right? And may our feet be within the gates of Jerusalem, right? It begins to say that they have put us at ease with our scorn, or they are at ease with our scorn. If the Negro, if the Israelite, if Yehudi, if Yehudah, if Judah is in a place where Judah continues to think that they are on the bottom, that's what makes the system run. It tells you these things. No wonder they tell you that you should only focus on the New Testament. No wonder they tell you to be lawless, but then make sure that you don't do anything illegal. And many persons, where you'll have to make a choice. You started this walk with Yah. Yah started this walk before you existed and had this ready for you so you can come out of this wickedness. It's coming to a head. These are the beginnings of sorrows, according to Matthew 24. If you don't get that reference, Matthew 24 is where Yehoshua is speaking to his disciples and he's finished preaching. And he's preached to everybody about the end of the world. His disciples, since they are close in with them, they get to ask some questions that others can't really ask. So they say, hey, when you talk about, hey, you were talking about, you were preaching earlier, you were saying what's going to happen at the end when Israel falls and blah, blah, and all this stuff. What's going to happen at the end? What's going to happen? They asked for eschatology. right? What's going to happen in the last days, in the times that will last, right? Because if you know about Second Esdras, either it's chapter 9, verse 6, chapter 6, verse 9, whichever. But you'll see there where it says that, Esau, which I'm not talking about white, by the way, but Esau, this worldly spirit, right, out of the same womb, but not the same people. These people who supposedly are like us, but they're not going to do what they're supposed to do, or are of us in DNA, but are not Israel, not kingdom. It says that it says there Esau is the end. Second Esdras says Esau is the end of the world. World being system, right? Cosmos with a K in the Greek. Esau is the end of the wicked system, but Israel is the beginning of everything else. That's what it says, right? So going back to Matthew 24, they say, hey, when the wicked world is going to end, what should we look for? And Yehoshua begins to say, first things first, look for persons who keep saying they're doing things in my name, or they say that they're me, all right. And that happens a lot more than you might think. Persons that keep saying they're the Messiah, just at some point go on Pride or go on, whatever, Yahoo, go on whatever Google search you're using, whatever, right? But go on that search engine and look up persons that think they're the Messiah. You'd be surprised how much that happens, and how many persons drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, and how much of that stuff is still happening. How many persons are doing wicked stuff, like even, having sexual relations. And by the way, just in case you think that I'm only talking about so-called white persons that do this or whatever, this has happened in the Caribbean quite a few times. This has happened in, even if it happened in South America. One famous one is a guy that was attached to Oprah, and the guy was, sexually abusing persons. It happened in our community. A lot of you don't know, like IUIC. I'm not saying you can't listen to them, but IUIC and some other groups, they actually come from a group that used to be under a guy named Yahweh Ben Yahweh. At least that's what he named himself. And he said that he was the Messiah who had come back. And while they did, if we be honest, while they did grow food and had land and did some of that, they also were an organization that was offering each other. He was having, sex with the wives and saying that they belong to him and that he's the king. And just like the Hashpah said, he was trying to say it wasn't esoteric or it wasn't figurative. He was saying, oh yeah, I as the Messiah should have all these women married to me and stuff like that, or whatever, and they're having the children. There's a lot of stuff that creeps up where there's false messiahs, and we're in these times, but we're not paying attention, right? A lot of us are under some of these groups, or giving credit, or not listening. We're not listening when a Pastor Jamal Bryant, who has in Baltimore, Maryland, has had that A word that rhymes with extortion done to quite a few women while he was cheating on his wife, that was trying to do that to hold it down, that he was, doing all this stuff or whatever. And then he goes down to Georgia and begins to preach it and tell persons in the same place that Bishop, whatever his face was, in New Birth down there in Georgia, he begins to tell all the persons who were already dealing with some sexual issues that were riding around that church, he begins to tell them why it's okay to continue to off our people. We're living in the times when persons are using the name, right, or a false name, really, a lot of times too, but even sometimes at the actual name of Yehoshua to go against the truth. We have to be honest about that, right? How you doing, Sister Tamika? How you doing, Sister Dawn? We got to be honest about that. Yeah, the imagination of man is wicked, especially when it comes to vain imaginations. Imagination's not the problem; it's the vain imagination. We're dealing with that stuff and not even realizing what's going on, and we're right as Israelites, as Hebrew Israelites, we're having persons who are giving the same stuff that we said was so wrong when we left, and people were cheating and having so many families and blah blah. And here it is now, persons are trying to preach and teach that there'll be 7 to 1, even though that already happened to where y'all was giving a warning if you didn't get yourself together. Because if it's 7 to 1, that means that they're still doing wrong things and it's a curse. But they're trying to preach 7 to 1 because they want that many women, they want that many wives. You see? We're having an issue where persons we're not being honest about what time is it, right? What time is it? And many persons, when they start to realize, instead of standing, they're running, right? But if you started it, whatever you started, not only start, but stay. And if you're going to stay, you might as well stand. Don't stay to get beat up. Stand, right? A lot of us don't know. If you're talking about racism in our Hebrew Israelite community, or racism in the church, or racism in whatever society, you got to realize that means you're going to have to stay through some foolishness. Racism not just going away. Rome wasn't built in a day. Racism wasn't built in a day. And I know, in your mind, and you're correct, in your mind, nobody should be judged as being evil just because of whatever skin color they have. That being said, we don't live in that. That's not the reality. That's the reality of Yah that He wants us to go towards. But if He's given us that, that's His vision for us to get to. That means you got to start it, but you got to stick around through it. You got to stay, and you got to stand. You got to stand on business. You got to understand. You have to stand under the standard, right? You got to be under the standard. Watch this. So back to Matthew 24 real quick. In Matthew 24, He keeps on talking. He says, yeah, so there'll be persons who come in my name. He says, but then catch peep game too. This is the time that He says you got to start looking at to see when we're in the last time. He says, or the start of the last times. He says, I need you to comprehend that there's persons who are actually over here, right? Well, yeah, if you want to overstand, I get the context as far as especially Afrocentric persons. We're going into connotation, not denotation. So if you're going into connotation, overstand for you means you're trying to stand over the principles of the so-called white man or Eurocentric society and all that stuff, right? And I'm not necessarily mad at it, right? Or understand. You have it on the inside of your heart, right? This is something that permeates and resonates and literally goes through your pores and seeps into the pores of others around you, right? But the word understand, although it's being used outside of context when persons in that same community are trying to say, oh yeah, understand means that you are under the standard of the wicked white man. No, yeah, if you're under that standard, you can be under any standard. Understand just means I'm under a standard. Standard is a flag. So our flag can be the red, the black, and the green. Right? Right? Your standard could be non-citizen national. Your standard can be more. Your standard can be Israel. Your standard can be the true kingdom of heaven. Your stand can be black, whatever you want it to be. But whatever standard it is that you should be under. If I see you saying you're something, and then you say that's your standard, then I'm gonna check you on your standard. The first things first, because you don't have to believe what I believe, right? But like I talk to Buddhists and stuff, and if a Buddhist tells me, oh, well, we're under Buddhist standard. Well, then why do you believe that there's persons who are being reincarnated as the Buddha, or everybody can be a Buddha? Well, we believe that because blah, blah, blah. But Buddha's teachings and what he said out of his own mouth on his deathbed and other things speak against that. So obviously you don't understand. You're making up a whole new thing. Now, if you're making up a whole new thing, then cool. Tell persons you've made your own version of it and have them understand that. But don't try to have it to where persons are confused, going off of a whole bunch of different things because you won't talk about the actual culture, language, the person who originally wrote it, etc., right? Same thing with the word, same thing with the Bible, where persons don't even understand because many persons, like we said, many persons have never heard Genesis spoken of properly. Because if you don't know what Badashah is, you don't even know what Genesis is about, or what the Bible's about, or what the scrolls are about. That's the first word, right? At least if we're going off of Genesis being the first book, right? We know that there's Enoch and others even before Genesis as well too. But if that's the book that we're using, well then we should know about a shot. If you don't know about a shot, you don't even know the Bible, right? Now persons will still preach in His name, with His authority, right? Even though obviously if we know culture and stuff, there are certain things that you shouldn't be preaching and teaching, especially in these days where it's very clear. At this point, you're teaching what Mama and them said over what Yah said. And what Mama and them said might not have been correct. That's right, they're not intimate with it. So, back to Matthew 24. He says, many will come in my name. Many will say that they're doing this. Many will say that they got the truth. Many will say this. Many will say that. How you doing, Brother Warren? Thank y'all for the love, right? He says, many are going to do all of it. But he said, this is where it gets in. You got to start really paying attention. He says, many will, he says, you will find that persons will wax cold, that their heart will get to a place to where it's not in Yah. He said, many will wax cold. He said, many persons will be cold-blooded. Many persons won't have natural affection. Is what Paul talks about in 1 Timothy chapter 3, or 2 Timothy chapter 3. They will be without natural affection. You know, affection is natural. Supposed to be, for men and women. You know, if you train up a child in the way that they should go, if you give a child what they need as a child, affection is not a problem. You know, it's actually wrong. I won't say wrong, but it's actually against a woman's nature to not naturally give affection. But how many sisters feel like they can't give affection or have to raise their sons and daughters without affection because they don't get what's natural? Matter of fact, do you know that fathers that are cold end up raising daughters that are cold? Because fathers should have natural affection too, but because, as Deuteronomy 28 tells us, we're so messed up. It tells us that we are jealous of each other. And because we're jealous of each other, we take that jealousy back home and we take it out on our wives. Yeah. And because of that, it says also too, once we run out of getting on our wives about it, we get upset at our children. And anything that shows that they might be doing something different or something better than us, we become like Denzel Washington in that play, or the play that they made a movie. I forget the name of the one that James Earl Jones had done first. I'm about to say Picnic. It's not Picnic. It's Fences. I'm about to say Picket Fences. Is it Fences? It's the name of the Fences. Thank you. How you doing, Buster? Fences. I was like thinking Pick. I was like, what am I saying? Picket Fences is what I'm thinking about. Fences. It's the name of the movie and the play. The play is like that. The movie is all right. I don't know if like certain plays I don't think should be turned into movies. It's kind of weird, but I mean Denzel does his thing, you know. And by the way, it's not one of those happy ending movies. If you're gonna watch that, if you feel you have to have those, just without me giving away the movie, if you have the play, if you haven't seen it, you're not. It's not for you to be happy at the end, but you do learn some things. Okay, that's matter of fact. A lot of persons don't know. Be aware if you start watching movies in other cultures. Other cultures are not always trying to make sure there's a happy ending at the end of each thing that you watch. Okay, especially you're gonna talk about the Francais, like you know, in French and stuff. Watch a French movie. Be ready. Some of them things is gonna be, whoo. By the end, they're not even gonna try. Like if they're gonna try to tell you a story, sometimes they're just like life is life, and there is no, oh yeah, we're gonna dress it up for you, and everybody gonna dance around and ding dong, the witches dead. Some of them things are gonna be like, no, this is life is jacked up. So just be ready for that. Some of y'all don't, you know, we're used to a lot of persons trying to be Hollywood or Bollywood or Nollywood and all this stuff. Now everybody trying to follow the same thing. There's still a lot of places out there. Be careful, okay? But anyways, right? But he says, Yahashua says in Matthew 24, right? He says, hey, be ready. Be ready. This person's coming, and they're gonna have cold hearts. We're gonna have it towards each other. Men, we don't really need women like that. Why I need this and this and this, and then trying to figure out why homosexuality and DL mentality and download mentality is a thing, especially in hip hop. We don't want to bring up. We don't want to bring up. But if you keep preaching to your guys that is bro, forget my language, but I'm just repeating something. Forget my language, I'm repeating it, and you're gonna hear what I'm saying. How long has this been the same? Bros before hoes. You say that enough times. You do that enough times, you say that enough times, what you think's gonna happen? What do you think goes into the psyche? You do that enough time and then send all these dudes into a place called prison. But they're not gonna see any women, girls, wives, or ages for a long time. What do you think's gonna happen? They're sagging their pants coming out of San Quentin, and everybody just repeats the behavior, not knowing that they were sagging their pants because they were the HOESs in that piece, right? And we keep this up. But what do you think's gonna happen? When you keep telling women that they don't need men, right? We might want y'all from time to time, but we don't need y'all. What do you think's gonna happen? Why do you think that lesbianism continues to grow? Why do you think that our sisters are the ones, right, in our diaspora, specifically as far as color, so to speak, our diaspora, right, are the ones that are growing in witchcraft the most? What do you think happens when somebody's been told, they've been taught, these little girls being taught that if your man doesn't make $250,000 a year, you're not a man? Can I tell you something? This is how messed up I was as far as even how much money people actually make for real. I was, we were watching something, talking about something, whatever. We've been spending a lot of time, especially the last couple of days together, because of family stuff that just popped up. So we were spending a lot of time these last couple of days together. We've spent a lot of time together, period, as a family. But you know, We've really, just been talking, laughing, joking, doing stuff, going different places, whatever. And as we were talking yesterday, we were. I didn't realize in my mind, because when I was raised as a child, guess what? I got Jamaican mother. Or sorry, Jamaican grandmother, somewhat Jamaican mother, right? She's Jamaican, but you know what I'm saying, as far as living on the island, having a mindset. So my grandmother and other women that I'd be around growing up, every time that you heard them talk about a man, right, that they wanted their daughters or their granddaughters or whomever, or their nieces, etc., to be around, you were supposed to be somebody that had a bunch of jobs, or if you had, but the goal was, hey, can you get a doctor, can you get a lawyer, right? Anybody who got West African, which we got West African through that same bloodline too, doctor, lawyer, right? Doctor, lawyer, pretty much is it. Doctor, lawyer, and sometimes they give you, I forget what the third one is, but that's pretty much what you're supposed to be. If you ain't gonna be that, you better be whatever. Well, you better be whatever. That's what I was raised around, right? That's what I was raised around, right? Doctor, lawyer, stuff like that, whatever. I thought in my head still, we were talking about doctors, in my head, I just automatically, as crazy as I now know this to be, until yesterday, still in my head, it was like, oh, if you a doctor, yeah, you making like at least cool. I would think like a bad doctor making 150,000 a year. Engineer, thank you, yeah, engineer. They'll let you do engineer too. You can be engineer too, right? But in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you gotta be, making a cool 150,000. Yeah, like, a lot of them making 250. It don't even make sense to think like that, but that's what I'm thinking. And that can be the ones that are better in the, doing better than everybody else are making things like that, right? Some of them making even more. But, my wife was like, no, 90,000. Some of them making, like 60,000. And I immediately went, oh yeah, because I know about adjunct professors. You can have a professor that got a doctorate and all that, but they make excuses to pay them minimum wage. I was like, I forgot. Yeah, it's just a title, and it's a great title to have, but it doesn't mean guarantee you're gonna make money. Like being a social media influencer doesn't guarantee. You got persons that get millions of views that live out of the back of their cars, right? Some of them are just learning now more so than as far as percentage wise. You're starting to see more and more persons learning how to make a living off of social media correctly, right? But in my mind, I had the title. I just thought because they had it like that, but no, there's a lot of doctors that serve. That's why a lot of doctors would go ahead and take stuff under the table around and all that, because they were supposed to make that money in their head, but they're not. Right? The same way that happens, you have a lot of persons who swear up and down that they are who they say they are. They are pastor so-and-so. They are bishop so-and-so. They are overseer so-and-so. They are deacon so-and-so. They are evangelist so-and-so. Prophet so-and-so. Prophetess so-and-so. I consider women to be prophets as well, but I know some of you want the prophetess piece. No shade, right? Prophetess so-and-so. Teacher so-and-so, right? Apostle so-and-so. Bishop so-and-so. Cardinal so-and-so. Pope so-and-so. Archbishop so-and-so. All the different titles. We're in the time where they're going to have that, but at the same time, while having that coming in his name, they also have less disposition to actually take care of people. Their hearts have waxed cold. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't protect your heart, but at the same time, there's some persons that they don't have an open heart at all. Also, we got into the position. See, this is what you got to stick around for. You got to fight through this. Don't just be part of this. You got to come around. You got to stick around. You got to fight through this. There's other sinners. You don't have to fight through this stuff happening. There's things that are happening. There's things that are going against what the Most High Yah wants, and we've been told that they're coming. Ain't doing a devil, right? Malpractice is high. Come on, right? That's a great way to say it. But malpractice is high, and you're in this. You got to realize you signed up to get through this to the kingdom. You're going to get to it, but in order to get to it, you got to go through it. You got to get through to get to, right? So if and we say that, we hear that saying, stuff like that, stuff similar to that all the time. How you doing, Lauren? Right? That manifestation, I'm on. So if we're going to get through this, then we can't get through this by starting it and then saying it's too much to go through and stop. Don't start with Yah has. Don't stop what Yah has started. Don't stop what you have started. Right, they have a license to practice medicine, yeah. To practice medicine. Not to heal, but to practice medicine. And we know these things. We know these things to be true. So if these things are true, we should take them, we should take them as being true. If Yah has warned us about this, we should take his warnings as being true. Right? Not just, oh, okay, this is a nice word. Okay, I show up and I listen to the word and I go and I don't do anything with it. This was actually talked about in ministerial prayer. And, we were praying about it as ministerial staff, that there are brothers and sisters as well, but it was specifically brothers that are working together diligently to ensure that whatever we say on the live session manifests. Not just to have the position or to say it or to string people along for a really long time and have everybody else fall off, and when they fall off, wait for the next group to come in and string along. At some point, this has got to break. Like when we talk about our children getting better, at some point, this got to break. I'm not just doing it just because. Amen, Sister Cheryl. We're not doing it, but I'm not doing it just because. Right? I'm doing this due to the fact that Yahweh says that this is righteous, that this is eternal, and we know that as we do what he says, he's always 100% right. He hasn't been wrong yet. Now, he also says in Matthew 24, that's right, the Messiah, he says specifically that in the beginning of the end times, there will be wars, there will be rumors of wars, right? He says that there will be earthquakes, said that there will be storms, there will be great floods. And when he says all these, he says, I need you to comprehend that even when these things begin, when they start, I need you to know, beloved, he says, do not, he says, do not treat this as the end. He said, these things must happen, but they are the beginning of sorrows. But if you signed up and you once again, if you think, hey, the earthquakes and the floods and the wars and the rumors of wars and persons doing all types of wild stuff and coming against us and racism, he said, these things must happen. They're warning signs, right? They must happen. But he said, don't get complacent. Don't keep doing this thing where when I get to heaven, then I can start. That's what you taught. See, we were taught to take the Bible and make sure that we didn't do anything with it as far as, once again, the Bible is very revolutionary. We want to use that term. Now, how you doing? Is it IDJ, the planet? Thanks for being part of the community, or thanks for being home with us today, rather. Thank you for the love. So a lot of us, once again, have this whole thing, some glad morning, right? We were raised on some glad morning when this life is over, I'm flying away, right? We like that. We like that. Right? We like that mindset. We have that thought process, right? As far as when we leave. But what about while you're here? If the kingdom of heaven is in you, and remember, even Genesis 28 talks about heaven and earth meets together, right? Where the children of Israel are, therefore anybody grafted into Israel, those grafted into the kingdom, shall have heaven and earth together. Your body made of the earth, kingdom of heaven inside of you, the two coming together. Heaven meets earth. Even in Revelation, heaven meets earth, right? Heaven meets earth. Heaven meets what? Earth, right? When you had this realization, when you had this thought process, when you had this mindset where heaven meets earth, then what is in Radaf Hashamayam, also it's Radaf at Arat. The kingdom of earth for us is also the kingdom of heaven runs the same as the kingdom of earth. That lapis lazuli type mindset, right? Yeah, the same place where Jacob's ladder was. That's where he had the dream, where heaven meets earth. Bethel, Batal, right? Right. That's where he was, where he made the altar, where he would make the two, eventually the two pillars, all that stuff. That's Genesis 28. Where heaven meets earth. You'll see heaven meet earth in Isaiah 65. You'll see heaven meet earth in Revelation. You'll see heaven meet earth over and over and over again. That's the goal, is for what is done in heaven, right? Our Father, Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. Our Father, right? Abba at Yechadashah, right? At Shemayam, right? Chakadash Hashem. Right? And your will, right? The kingdom come. Your will be done at Arat, in earth, the same way it is done at Shemayim, in heaven. That's the mindset. You see what I'm saying? That's the reality. That's the mindset. So if you're in a position to where, this is why persons who only focus on the spirit but never focus on the flesh are still disobedient. Because your goal is not to never focus on your flesh. The flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. The will of the spirit through the soul, therefore, should control the flesh. And we are started. This is why you can't stop this journey, because there's somebody out here who's depending on you to show them this, because they don't think properly through the so-called Bible, through the Spirit, through the Torah, etc. Right? We're not talking. We don't have that conversation. And by the way, I'm not here to tell you that Jacob's ladder can't be talking about your spine, and Jacob's ladder can't be talking about DNA or this, that, etc. Right? But persons don't even get that Jacob's ladder, Yaakov, right? Jacob's ladder, where he has a dream specifically in Padan Aram, which is going to be where Israel meets. He's having a dream, and up go the angels, and down, right, come the angels. So yeah, just like if you want to talk about the spine, but reality, just going to the basics, you got to at least see that he's having a dream in which he's been given the same promise and same birthright, where he's given the same birthright and blessing that Abraham had, that Noah was re-given. Eventually Shem will have it. Eventually Hebrew will have it. Eventually Abraham, through his obedience and going against his father's will and leaving when his father dies, will have it, right? Given to him. Isaac has it. Isaac gives it to Jacob, triples down on it, just in case you think that he shouldn't have it. He triples down on giving it to him. Then they have him go looking for a wife and go looking at a specific land, going back to the Syrian land. And on his way back to the Syrians, he ends up having a dream that this place would belong to him, the same place where heaven would meet earth, where angels, remember there's angels, angel just means messenger. You can have an earthly angel, you can have a heavenly angel. Now if you're talking about specific types of angels, we have a different conversation, right? So even the angels, even the messengers, even those who are Levites, etc., they must have a mindset of what we speak, what we teach, what we preach, must be where heaven meets earth. A lot of cats are trying to make sure that right now heaven should meet earth. Everybody thinks that heaven should meet heaven, but heaven should meet earth. Your flesh and your spirit, you are three in one, flesh, soul, and body. If you even know what the word that they're usually referring to in spirit, it's not actually what you guys think. In the Greek, when they're using the term spirit, that's why you have to know the difference between words, culture, language. When they're using the word spirit, a lot of times in the so-called New Testament, they're using a word that actually means that it comes from the Septuagint, but they're using a word that actually means pneuma. Pneuma does not mean spirit by itself, because the mindset of the Greek, right, and the word they're trying to use to get you to get a Hebrew context, but the mindset of the Greek through the language that the Romans are still using is this, and the Etruscan thought process and sensibilities they have as well. If you're talking about spirit, what they're saying in ancient times is that the spirit, right, for them, pneuma, P-N-E-U-M-A, pneumatical thought or spirit, is what? It is a stoic thought that marries the spirit, soul, and body together. So when they're talking about spirit and using this term, right, as far as what you guys call New Testament, we know that there's really no such thing as Old or New Testament. But that being said, when you're talking about the so-called New Testament, a lot of you are going into your Strong's Concordance, reading the Greek context. You're not even realizing that they're using a word that's actually saying that whatever happens with your spirit through your soul will affect your flesh, which also means vice versa. Whatever's happening through your flesh, through your soul, will affect your spirit. So if one is going to spiritually make it through these last days and the signs that we're seeing, then you have to be spiritually into it. This is why even in Romans, as much as a person tries to flip this and say Paul is against the law, Paul actually talks about Romans chapter 3 saying we have an advantage because we're Judah, because we're circumcised, which means because we know the law, because we've known what Yah has had for us since the days of the prophets. We're not changing the word. We're not coming up with a new word. We're not Christians now, right? If you're going to be part of that word, you got to go back to what gave the advantage. This is why Romans chapter 11 says that those who want the advantage, they got to be grafted into Israel. They must leave like Ruth did, right? And they must leave where they were and marry in to Israel, right? Or graft into Israel, or be part of the same kingdom as Israel. And once you are, then you can start talking about being grafted in Revelation chapter 7. Right? Then we can start having that conversation. But a lot of persons are trying to have the conversation out of place, out of pocket, without proper thought process. Because we don't know what's righteous. We don't know even the word. We don't even know our language. Right? Whatever dialect you're speaking. I'm not here to argue over Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yahweh, 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 which is actually better if you're using that pronunciation. But whichever one it is, right? I'm not here, right? I'm thankful that you're getting it, but I'm here to tell you that we don't even know our land. We don't know when we read the word world. The word world means system. We don't know that the Hashva in his word, right? His zara, his seed, right? That's why it manifests, right? Into the ground, or even his seed, the same word for word also means sperm. So whatever he speaks, it impregnates and then it manifests. We don't think about these things because we don't care about the culture. We don't care about the actual language, the words, making sure the persons are there and getting that as far as a nation. When the nation is supposed to come together, the nation is supposed to come together under a standard. I know that's why that's why I was talking about earlier. I get what we mean when we say overstand, but understand just means be under a standard, right? If I'm under Yah's standard, then I don't want to be overstand. If I'm over him, or I think I'm over his standard, then that's when I get into the Talmud. That's when I have a big head. Right? But if I'm under him, he's the king. But who is he the king of? He's the king of kings, Malachim, right? And if he's over us as royalty, the royalty over the royalty, the Lord over the Lord, then that means that as he's lifted up, then we're lifted up, being fellow heirs with the Messiah himself. So if we start this, we got to go through a lot. If we start this mindset, don't be one of these persons that gets upset. Look, man, I'm here to tell you, there's such thing as righteous indignation and all that, right? Definitely it is. There's such thing as righteous indignation and all that, right? But don't get so upset and frustrated that some of you will stop where Yah has you going. Some of you will stop where the Most High has you going due to the fact that what? That it's hard, or that you're mad, or that he's requiring more of you than what you thought you would get. It doesn't say that he'll give you what feels comfortable to you. It says he'll never give you more than you can bear. But yeah, it doesn't feel comfortable. This hurt. This feels like this feels like this. This feels no. Stand. When you've done all you can to stand, what's the next commandment? When you've done everything you can to stand, there's another level. Stand. There's a second wing. You running? How you doing this time? I'm sorry, Joseph, excuse me. And Sister Danielle, if you listen, and babies, if you listen. Right, you running, you're running, you're running, you're running. You start getting tired. If you throw in the towel, you'll never experience something called second wind. If you hang in there, what you discover is, while you start limping and stuff, but just keep on running, keep on going, because there's a place to where your body kicks in and says, either this, right, your body kicks in and says, hey, either he gonna die, which means we gonna die, or he gonna keep running, because we gonna keep running. The lungs are burning, but the lungs say, hey, I don't know if I can make it. And the brain's like, you gotta do something. The heart's like, I've been using my valve to get this stuff out. The lungs are like, we pumping, right? The blood is flowing. It's trying. But at some point, if you've never ran long enough, you've never experienced a second wind. And many of us have never ran long enough. You know, many of us have gone from assembly to assembly to assembly, from church to church to church, from family to family to family, from religion to religion to religion. Right? Whatever you know, but that term we use called religion. But if you stay in something long enough, you'll find that you actually have a second gear. That adrenaline kicks in. It kicks in because you are there you're going to preserve the body. Come on, right? Even the birth pains. Come on, that's a great way of looking at it too, Sister Shirley. Right? You're giving birth to something. You can stop pushing. And it's possible that the baby might come out. And if you were doing it properly, by the way, you wouldn't be on your back, right? You'd actually just be squatting the way you're supposed to, right? But you can stop pushing and see what happens. But even though it's painful, pushing. And you know what's amazing? And I'm not a sister. I'm listening to what the sisters say. I've never experienced this, obviously. Right? That being said, the sisters will tell you that once they pushed out the baby, no matter how much pain was there, no matter if there was an episiotomy involved, no matter what happens, no matter how many hours they were in labor, no matter if somebody cut into it, whatever, they'll tell you that after they see the baby, it's the best pain relief. That in the moment of seeing the baby and hugging the baby and kissing the baby and having the baby latch on for the first time and all that, and skin to skin, they'll tell you. Now I'm not saying postpartum doesn't come and all that, but I'm saying in the moment they'll tell you that all that stuff doesn't even matter. Any father who's ever seen his wife become a mother to his child will tell you that it's one of the most awe-inspiring things. It's one of the sexiest things. I know that sounds wild. I'm not talking about getting turned on by watching the birth stuff come out or whatever. That most men, some men pass out because of that. But I'm talking about the fact that you see your wife, and you see her strong enough to do something that you couldn't even think about. You watch her cry. You watch her upset because they wouldn't let her eat. You watch her go through all these mood swings. You saw the mood swings for months. You saw what this does to her. And all of that happened because she was able to take something you couldn't do by yourself. She took a little seed, microscopic, a zarah, a word. That word for word is the word for seed, is also the word for sperm in Hebrew. She took that zarah, she took that seed, that word that was spoken from your loins, and she was able to turn it into a manifestation. She multiplied so that you could be fruitful, and that you could replenish, and that you could train up your child so that you could subdue, and that they could subdue years and years after. They'll tell you it's one of the most painful things, but at the same time, in the moment, you'll see them, even sometimes in extreme pain. What is the reflex? The reflex is give me my baby, right? Give me what's manifested. You said you remember that it was the worst pain, but you can't remember. Amen. Okay. Yeah. So, and that's the sister saying it, not me, right? But yeah. So, but it's worth it, right? But you can't run away. Might I say it like this? I know I'm not supposed to say this word, but so many times you can't abort what Yah has placed in you. And some of us abort. Some of us don't even allow it to get to the point to where, you really start to feel the kicks. And one of the reasons why, if we're just going to go ahead and go and get through birth, Holy Spirit, I was just here, let's just go ahead and keep being obedient. Look, one of the reasons why this is very difficult, if we be honest, is a lot of us don't have the vital minerals that we should have had. This is why I cannot say I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to play one on television. My wife is a herbalist. I don't pretend to play the herbalist or doctor on social media, on television, whatever. Right? But I will say this. I will say this to you. I hope you guys are ready for this. It's the truth. I will say this to you, that even though, a lot of persons don't realize this, the reason why many women go through, let's say allegedly, women go through so-called morning sickness is because you don't have the vitamins. Right? Like if you plan on getting pregnant, you should already be taking vital minerals. You take enough vital minerals so that you don't get sick. Because why are you getting sick? You're getting sick because what's inside of you is actually beginning, first of all, what's inside of you, your body would normally consider it, believe it or not, your body would normally consider it to be a parasite. Because it's feeding off of you, right? And if you haven't received what you need in enough quantity, not even extra, but you as a woman should have certain things in more quantity. Like, for example, I know sisters, they try to make you feel bad about your bodies and all this stuff. Do you not realize that a sister is supposed to be so-called overweight, definitely in comparison to a man? Now, I don't mean like supposed to be what y'all consider like 300, 400, 500, 200, maybe, depending on your build or whatever, your height, etc. But I'm talking about women are supposed to have a little extra fat, if you will, right? It's not unhealthy for her. I'm not saying all women have to look the same, but I'm just saying some of them should. And why? Because part of her design is to make sure that she's going to have something in her. Even when she gets back, by the way, somebody would definitely say this, let me say this is allegedly, or this is what somebody else said. Some would even argue that women going through menopause is not necessarily natural. Right? And I'm not talking about a man's argument. I'm talking about some women scientists, some women doctors who would describe menopause as something that's not necessarily natural. Right? So I'll just put that out there, but we'll leave that alone. But she is designed right? She is designed to be able to multiply. She is designed to be able to take seed. And so she should always have a little more extra. She's the weaker vessel. Weaker vessel doesn't mean that she's not strong enough to give birth, or she's not stronger than the man, whatever, even though obviously there's differences. But weaker also speaks to being more precious, more fragile. So you make sure you protect her because she's fragile in the sense that, hey, like, through her, that's where look, husbands, as much as you think your value just comes through this, I promise you, once you become a father and you start to have great children and do what they're supposed to do, and you stand, you don't run away, right? You finish what y'all gave you. If you're gonna start it, you're gonna stay in position, and you stand 10 toes down on what y'all wants to be as father. There is nothing that makes me look better being like, look at my babies. There's nothing. Look at my wife, who I'm one with, who I protect as if she's my own, and then look at my babies. My wife comes first. But I'm saying, as far as she gives me, without a wife, I have no legacy. Some of you think that your money is your legacy, right? And you've been taught that. We've been arguing this whole men don't need women, women don't need men, right? And part of the argument on men say, well, I make this much money. I'm this tall, I'm blah, blah. But if you ain't got no babies, I'm telling you right now, say what you will, but there's a legacy. That means a whole lot. As much as it means a whole lot to women, I promise you, it means a whole lot to men. And I'm telling you right now, Brian, look, not every man needs to be a father. Not every woman has to be a mother. There's no law that says, there's no biblical principle that says if you're not a father, you're not a mother, you're a bad person. What I'm telling you, though, is that, hey, I'm telling you from my experience as being a father, even those of us that don't have physical children, being spiritual fathers, having somebody that we can connect with or say or incite or give something to or make sure that something's passed on, it means a lot. Because a father is a source. Did I say shalom earlier, Money Green? How you doing, Sister Night? You said that's the whole thing. You could preach all day long what you want to do. The fact of the matter is, who's really going to stand up? It's hard to do it alone. We work out our own salvation. We must come together to complete the mission. Yeah, so we work out our own salvation, but we can definitely help persons to salvage, right? And we are responsible for others. So even though we must work out our own salvation, I can be responsible for somebody not getting to a place where they worked out their salvation if I don't tell them the truth too. So I'm just saying, our legacy is powerful, right? And our wives even give us legacy. Our wives multiply. Even if our wives can't give us physical children or whatever, shoot, what's that old saying? Trying to make $1 out of 15 cents? Wives make $1 out of 15 cents. I can't tell you how many times I bought something from the store and I was sitting there being like, oh, they're going to be upset when I put this thing in the oven because it's just going to be some whatever. And then come to find out it turned into nuggets, it turned into vegetables, it turned into leftovers for the next day, right? A wife, not a woman. So we're talking culture here. Not a woman. Not every woman's a wife. Not every man is a husband. Right? But these are things that we have to hold in place. And these are things that have to be held in place. And how you doing is Machai? That's how you pronounce it, part of the community. Right? That's right. And the heavenly legacy. By the way, our Father who art in heaven, if we be his children, then we're his legacy. Remember, we talked a lot about a body shop in the Genesis series that we just finished a little while ago. Over and over again, we were talking about will. Hold on, let me make sure I go there. Will. Uh-oh, I'm forgetting the word. I'm going to number 3. I'm skipping one. Number 1 is will. Number 2, not legacy. Oh, not adoption. It is is will. Number 3 is birthright. Number 4 is blessing. Number 5 is wow. Does anybody recall? Somebody might have to help me out. Recall. What was it? Will. Lineage. That's the one I missed. Thank you, Sister April or Brother Keith, whichever one. Will, lineage, birthright, blessing, and charge. Right? So I am a father. And when I pass away, there will be a will, not just only for myself, but also for SOC. There will be a will, right? There be a will. Something must take place, and this will must be honored. Might change, your experience has changed, but right now, I have a will. That will is to be done, right? My will to make sure that there's certain things that will be done for my wife, for my son, for my children, right? And then I have the flip side. There's a will that must be done for SOC, stuff like that, or whatever. Person being trained, person being hit, this, that, what's going to happen next generation. I have a plan, blah, blah, whatever. But really, it's not even my will, right? It's Yah's will. So basically, I'm just going to be saying the same stuff that we did, basically having the will there. And who knows, we don't have an official name, but maybe at a certain point we know if something happens to Pastor Kofi, this person is in charge, or I'll start saying out loud to go with the will, this person, or whatever. We see that. But whatever. If it might not even be me who makes the decision. I'm still praying on how we're going to come about that. I don't know. We're still working that out. But there'll be a will, right, that says, this is what we're going to do. Right, so let's just say me as a father. God's will has got to be taken the service of Christ. That's what we're different how it's put together. I'm working on that to make sure that everybody's protected. And really, maybe I can make a suggestion, but ultimately, God's will will have to be done with your feet. We'll kind of do, because we're going to kind of follow the Moses to Joshua, and we're going to kind of follow John the Baptist to the Joshua kind of format, if you know what I'm talking about. So to voice it on paper nowadays is very it's kind of crazy, but we got something in the works. That being said, right? Because if we're going to be faithful to His word, there should be somebody who's in leadership position who's being trained up at all times, regardless of who it is, right? We pray about it and Yah's will, and if something technically somewhere to happen, and I don't have that together, so I got to get better on that, because if you're truly going to have whatever, you got to know who's coming next. Now, we have ministerial staff, we have elders, we have, right? We know that, right? So we at least would have some semblance of who's already doing what, and keep allowing them to get more and more chances, more power, more teaching, so they can be ready. But anyways, long story short, I have a will as a father, right? And as a father, my will must be done. If, it's a big if you want what I as a father have for you, then you should make sure that my will, right, my son has to make sure that my will be done. If he makes sure my will is done, then he gets to be in what's called, as far as the will is concerned, I'm not just talking about physical, we're talking about law, right? He gets to be in what's called a lineage. Let's say somebody else was adopted as my child. They might be adopted into a position to where they do where they have a part of the will, right? Let's say a big part of the will, which will be with my wife, a big part of the will. But my will must be done, and when those persons do that, they are in line with it. Therefore, you would call them my lineage, right? Even the age of my line, if you will, right? My line continues to age through them, but it's through my will. If you don't follow my will, I'm not trying to say I'm just giving an example of how this works. If one does not follow my will, then you cannot be of my lineage. How you doing, Minister Rouse? Right? All right. So if somebody's of my will, they follow my lineage. So my son, Solomon, is going to follow what his father says, his will, and he'll get something because of the lineage. What he gets because he's part of the lineage now, he's qualified to get what's called, he's qualified to get it because now, since he's part of my lineage, he receives a birthright. Did you catch that? And yes, this is big daddy energy speaking. This is big, what is it called? Everybody hates him now, nepotism, nepo babies. This is big nepo baby energy. This is big nepotism, because nepotism is a system in which we make sure that we take care of our family first. I ain't got no problem telling you that I'm looking at my family first, right? So if you're of my lineage, that's what allows you to even be somebody, right? If you of my will, that's what allows you to be of my lineage. That's why when we talk about nationality and nation building and those that are grafted in, you have to be of the will of Yah in order to be considered of the line or the lineage or the family of Yah. When you're part of the lineage or the family, now we can start talking about your birthright. See, you got to stick around. You got to stay. A lot of y'all just want all the stuff that comes with it. But see now, number 4, after you're in Yah's will or the Father's will, and after you're doing this correct, so now that you consider to be of the lineage, and now that we know, well, hey, if you're of the lineage, you have a birthright. Now we start to say, what's your birthright? We call this barak. We call this a blessing. Right? Now we can start talking about your blessing. Right? Now we can start talking about, okay, yeah, you deserve this, you deserve that. Some person just go, oh, no, I just deserve it just because I'm saved. No. You saved in Romans 10:9, right? So that you can get saved, by the way, meaning homologia, or sorry, you've confessed. Confession meaning homologia. Homologia meaning having the same logic. Christ is your Lord because you share his logic. If he followed the law, you follow the law, you share the same logic. Because of that, you are now saved, and since you were saved, or no, I'm sorry, not just only because of that, right, you carry the logic, now you are a fellow heir. If Christ can be raised from the dead, and you believe that, well, then you should believe you can be raised from the dead. So you have an opportunity to be what? To be saved. You are saved. But Romans 10:10, right behind it, says you're still on your way to right lawful standing, right? By the belief that you have, right? The belief that you can have it, that means you're on your way to righteousness. If you believe that you can be resurrected, then you should start becoming righteous or being in right lawful standing. And with your confession having the same logic, that you have the logic of Christ, and you're going to do what Christ did, and you're going to follow the law and be obedient to it, then that should lead you towards your own salvation. With fear, right? Working it out with fear and trembling. So we don't recognize that. But that's because we don't know how this works. If I follow his will, that makes me his lineage. If I'm of his lineage, right, then I have a birthright. If I have a birthright, whatever he gives me is his blessing. And now that he gives me his blessing, now it comes with a charge. I charge you therefore, 2 Timothy chapter 4. I charge you therefore because of what? Because of all the foolishness, because men will be high-minded, lovers of themselves. They will look for women who are going through all this silliness, and I don't need a man, blah, blah, or hey, I can do whatever, or hey, I just never been there. Look for them to be able to take them away from their families and bring them to something else. There'll be persons who are lovers of themselves rather than lovers of Yah. There'll be persons who are disobedient. There'll be treacherous. There'll be liars. There'll be all these different things. Okay, cool. Well, he gives us a charge. He's giving you the birthright to it, right? The birthright. He's giving you his will. He wants you to be part of his lineage so that you can have a birthright and you can be blessed. What? In the midst of this contentious world, so that now you have a charge. You're charged to live a certain way, to preach a certain way, to teach a certain way, to come together a certain way, no matter what the world throws at you. And how you doing, Brother Richard, if I didn't say so already? So if you're coming in, stand. Or if you started something with Yah, excuse me, whatever you started with Yah, don't stop it. Don't stop what Yah has started. Don't stop what you with Yah have started. Don't stop. If you started this process, then keep it going. And if you have started this process, right, then you need to stay. And you need to stand. Matter of fact, this is how crucial you are to the process. Shalom. Let's take a break just to let that marinate. You might not know, so allow me to help you with something. You are so necessary to the process. Watch this. You are so necessary to the process that Matthew 24 says that if you can endure, the same that endures shall be saved. We don't talk about saved outside of one verse in the Bible, even though in Romans chapter 10, it actually talks about being saved in Christ, right? Alone. But we only seem to talk about one verse. So Matthew 24, verse 13 says that if you can endure to the end, you shall be saved. And watch this, the verse behind it says, those that will be saved, those that will endure, this is what you're supposed to do. It uses the term gospel, which is God's spell. We don't believe in God's spell. Matter of fact, some of you might be new to this, so just allow me to explain real quick. We don't believe in God as far as Elohim. It's a Hebrew word, the Hebrew title for the Most High, right? And his name is Shafafah, right? However, God in Hebrew is simply one of the children of Israel. Matter of fact, God is the first adopted child from, is it Zilpah or Milpah? I'm not sure which one. But the first adopted child by Rachel, Rachel, right? Is the first adopted one. The fifth child. No. Uh-oh, I'm off. No, that's not true. God would be the first adopted child by Leah. right? Because it's Dan and Naphtali are the ones adopted by Rachel, and then Leah adopts two more, which are Asher and Gad and Asher, and then she has two more, right? And that's Issachar and Zebulun before Rachel has hers. Okay. Anyway, but God is one of the ones from the Hebrew is one of the 12 sons. No, fourth child by Leah is Yehuda or Yehuda or Judah. How you doing, Sister Casey? Right? How you doing? Blessings, blessings. So yeah. But God, G-A-D, that's how we pronounce. Now God, or Gaud, God, good, those are in the Germanic tongue, which is what a lot of you mean, can be whatever you want to worship. But God in Hebrew is the name, right? And his name means, somebody help me out from VBS. The name God means truth. Gad, or God means truth. So a troop of persons. So we don't worship a troop of persons, right? We worship Elohim. So that's what I mean when I say this. So when we say we're not into the God spell or the spell of God, right? The spell of many gods, the spell of all this stuff, right? That's what gospel comes from. It's a compound word, God spell. We're not into the God spell, right? We're into what Elohim is. And even if you look up this term gospel in your concordance there, in the Charles Concordance of Matthew chapter 24, verse 14, you will discover the gospel actually means, in the Greek, the word they're using actually means something more like giving persons the truth, revealing them kingdom. It's like a long definition, but if you put all of this stuff together, that they'll show you. But long story short, it's like giving persons the truth that reveals kingdom and allows them to know the word and shows the reward that comes with it. So Matthew 24, verse 14, actually reads more like this. It says, if we want, now we don't know the day or the hour, but we have a responsibility to push things towards, because Yehoshua is not coming back or not being sent back by the Most High. According to his word, the Messiah, our Messiah, he's not coming back until we have preached the particular message that shows persons what the truth is by the law and gives them proper reward. Once we preach that and that reaches throughout the world, then the Messiah is coming back. This is what you have to be able to stand in the midst of and deliver. You have to stay and you have to finish what you started and what Yah started, because that thing that Yah has started in you, the Bible says what that tabah, that righteous thing that he has started in you, he will complete it, he will perform it, he will complete it. If he started it, it must be done. The only way it doesn't get done is if you say you don't want to be used. It's time to move mountains, come on, right? So the only reason Yah's not coming, so you might not like this, but if you put this together, if you be honest about what the word says, it says that you have a responsibility on earth. Heaven means earth. You have a responsibility to make sure heaven and earth continue to meet. So in Matthew 25, you go on to the next one, that's talking about wives, that's cultural. Talking about how wives will put oil in their lamps waiting for their husband to finish building onto their father's house, which is called a mansion, an add-on for them, for their wives, and then they will be sent by the fathers to go back and get their bride. In the meantime, right, the bride, who's a bride on paper as far as betrothed, but she hasn't slept with her husband yet, so her and her husband are not officially married, but on paper, she has already been adopted into the other family, but cannot live there until the husband has built an add-on to his father's house. Beloved, let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in the Father, also believe in me. In my Father's house, there are many add-ons to his house, family, bed, tent. All right, there's many add-ons to the house, many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. As a husband who's betrothed already, it's on paper, it's on wax, it's written out. I go to prepare a place for thee, and where I am, where I'm building these mansions, you shall be also. Right? Well, that's culture. That's somebody waiting. Right, that's how it would happen. Once we had agreed on terms, the dowry is paid, all these things are there. Now the husband has to go and build, right? The bridegroom has to go and groom a place for his wife. He also has to begin to make sure that he's prepared to groom and teach and master and protect and help to develop and help to protect his wife. That's where the word groom comes from. You guys don't like the word groom because you only use it for children nowadays, because persons so out of pocket, we have to consider them grooming children. But the reality is that he's called a groom because he's the bridegroom. If you're a groom of anything, you have to ask, what are you the groom of? See, in the last days, we don't stand on business enough to even say, yeah, if I'm a groom, I'm here to groom. I'm here to groom my wife. I'm here to groom my children, and not in a perverted manner. Because to groom is to what? It's to prepare. I'm prepared to love my wife in a way that nobody else can, because I'm her groom. I'm not grooming all wives. I'm prepared to groom my wife, right? Is we talking about righteous speech. Thank y'all for the love. Appreciate it. How you doing, realist? Right? We talking about righteous speech here. We're not talking about no foolishness. A lot of persons don't catch it because so much stuff is so perverted that we can only think to the prison. But see, a wife, she prepares herself. She puts oil in her lamp. The oil, what does the oil represent? What is fire? The fire is the spirit. Always prepare for Holy Spirit to be there if necessary. Also, too, to be on fire, to light up things, to make sure that things are together, to make sure that she can be lit. You are a light to my feet. All these things are symbols. Now, while the husband is preparing the place for his wife based off of specifications that he knows through the family and through talking to his wife, that this is things that she needs to make sure that she's there and prepared for him. He also is making she also is preparing herself to be led by her husband. We don't even have dating in the kingdom, but in the last days, men will be lovers of themselves. In the last days, persons will pervert the word. In the last days, persons will lead silly laden women, where women laden with sin. Not just silly women. I want to make this clear. If you've ever read that verse, you might have read that out of context. There are men, right? And when we talk about in the kingdom, supposedly in the kingdom, there are brothers, right? Who under the so-called name of Yah, or whatever name they're going by, are there to look around and look not only for silly women, which are basically, the word silly they're talking about, not like funny per se, but talking about things that have really like messed up the mind of our sisters and stuff in the world today. They're feeling like they're not protected. They're feeling like they're in a position where I'll take a bear. I'd rather be in a tent with a bear than with a man. Because the bear doesn't mean me any harm. Or even if the bear harms me, he's only harming me because it's his nature. But the man's nature to harm is worse than what the bear would do. Right? But that's the society we're in, where stuff has become so silly and so crazy. Right? And women have become so masculine, or men have become so effeminate. Silly. And it says that now all you got to be is some kind of semblance of man. I'm talking about culture. Semblance of man. Even men are getting messed over because men, right, don't have men in their lives, or they don't see real men, and they have all these men who are trying to control them and manipulate them and get them to be red pillars and send their money into this group and that group and all that. Right? And so even the men are so messed up that they're looking for any kind of man. Some of them are even changing what the definition of a man is, or what masculinity is, right? Because they didn't even have the touch of a father. Man that says I love you, right, is first man that says it to you, that might do something weird to you. Some men can't even receive hugs. Can't even receive. Yeah. I mean, Andrew Tate can come along and he'll get a whole bunch of women to follow and be his women, and he basically pimping them. And that's what he said he was doing. Allegedly. Even though he's recorded saying and teaching classes on it. Right? But don't start. And once you start this journey, I'm just trying to put all this stuff out because we're starting a journey. Don't stop what Yah has started. We're going on this journey with Yah. And we have to be prepared for all these different things that are coming. Yah didn't just say, hey man, come on in, everything will be easy. And no, he told us. He said there's going to be bad things that happened in the last days. Yehoshua told us that in these last days, persons would try to off each other. There would be wars. There would be earthquakes. There would be famine, right? The four horsemen is highly, it's, think about even one of the horsemen to where literally things are so bad, we walk right going around with the scales and everything. Things are so bad that persons can't afford bread. That was something that was said, literally. Persons cannot afford bread. Bread has become too expensive. Look at how many countries where bread is some places bread is 100,000 whatever version of dollars they have. You go to some places in South America, you go to some places in Africa, or some places in Asia, you'll discover that persons can't afford bread. Right? These are things that we were told. We were told that they said that it was going to be too much money. They even gave them, you have to study it to see exactly what it is in today's economy. I don't know how many dollars it was, but they say in there, they tell you the price. And when you look at the price, it's something that you can't afford. Right? How is it that you can't afford bread? Or plastic rice in 18, right? And a lot of that has to do with the Clintons and all them too. But how we got into a place, and the Bible told us this was coming. See, this is the time where it's time to like stand. It's really about to go. See, we've seen the beginning of it, right? And when it's going to start getting rough and tough, a lot of us going to take our hands off. But it's supposed to get rough. It's supposed to get tough. It's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be challenging. What did you come for? When you joined this, did you join this because, like everybody said, come on in. It's going to be fun. Join us every Sunday. Every Sunday, we'll just have fun. Every Sunday, we'll just worship. Every Sunday, we'll just play music. I'm here to tell you, as a musician who enjoyed all that, and by the way, I believe you should play music. You should play the harp. You should play that organ. You should play them drums. You should stomp the clap. You should do all that stuff. I'm here to tell you, though, in all that being done, if you came just for fun, and then realize you're going to have to roll up your sleeves, and that you're going to have persons who are going to point weapons and arrows and stuff at you, whether physical or spiritual. If somebody didn't tell you that you joined for the wrong reason, and you're going to have to, come on, while doing it, count it all joy. The word joy means to leap. You're going to have a mindset that even when they talking trash about me, I'm greater than that. Don't stop what Yah has started. Don't stop what Yah has started. How you doing, Joey? Yeah, don't start. Don't stop what Yah has started. This thing that He started in you, it must be completed. So then, if we're saying that, then now we got to ask another question: how far are you willing to go? Now we got to ask another question: how far are you willing to go? Because He says, go until. That's what long suffering is, by the way. You know the word for patience and the word for long suffering? They're basically almost the exact same word, except for like the last one or two characters, or the last one or two letters in the Greek. So that long suffering is different than patience, because you know patience or patience, right? It means patience has an aim. This is going to be hard for some of us, because patience is a virtue, right? Virtus meaning how you represent. So patience is a way you can represent the Most High. And there's some things you got to be patient in. That means there's some things that you got to have a timeline in. Hey, bruh, cool, you can be rocking with us, this and that, but you only got, we only going to deal with this for a couple years. Bruh, if you don't get yourself together, you still doing da-da-da, our patience runs out. You need patience. Patience is deadlines. Patience is our boundaries. Those without patience have no boundaries. So we do need patience. That being said, though, long suffering is a whole other ballgame. Because whenever you see long suffering, remember the word suffer means, part of the definition for suffer is also to choose. But long suffering means you suffer until. Right? For those who sign, do sign language in English, or I don't do ASL, but those who do ASL, there's a sign for long. It goes like this: you take the letter L, and you just go up against your arm, long, right? If you see somebody do this, they're saying long. But if they want to tell you how long, it might be long, it might be long, it might be long, right? Trying to tell you like this thing is taking a while. But only y'all might give you something to suffer through or to choose to go through. And if you're going to be a long suffering, you might have to go through one of them long parts of the journey. right? You might have to go through one of those long parts of the journey. You hear me, beloved? He might have given you something, and there might not. He might not have a time limit. He might be. I'm in the midst of something right now where I've been praying for some stuff, especially some healing on some things, and the healing from stuff to where I was doing what I was supposed to on my job. Probably had, hernia and problems and issues like that before, and now it's gotten so crazy that basically it might be something that it might be with me until. And I've been looking at this and blah blah, and I really don't want to go into the night because they're gonna have to do experimental stuff on me and all this stuff the way it is. And so I've been praying and looking, and guess what? Y'all's response was to my prayers. And I told the minister staff, I told you guys, I don't really like his answer, but he told me same thing he told Paul about the ribbon, the thorn in his side. He said, "My grace is sufficient." You hear what I'm saying? My grace is sufficient. And so that's where I'm at. He said, okay, I'm gonna do whatever I'm supposed to. And this might be something that I have to live with. And I still be asking for 150 years. he may or may not give it to me. I still be asking for 150. But if I'm be here, that means that I'm coming up in 43 this year. So that means that I'm gonna have to deal with this for another what? 107? I might. Or it might go away. He might heal it on his own. Who knows? But I'm just saying, he told me that his grace is sufficient. And sometimes y'all give us something, he doesn't give us a deadline on when he says that suffering's over. He said, I want you to choose to go through it. And you know one thing that Paul learned through that is humility. That's one thing that happened with the disciples and the apostles and the prophets. If you weren't aware, they had to go through some things. And we went through some things, and they would be number one prophet of all Israel. Could you imagine? Right, we're not really together as a nation the way we used to, right? But I'm Kohelet or assembler or a pastor over the branch that's known as Servants of Christ. By the way, based off of Ephesians chapter 6, verse 6, we call it Christ instead of Mashiach, or some of you say Mashiach or Hamashiach, right? But we call it Christ because Yah said that's still our name as persons, are learning who we are in English. So we're servants of Christ, but we know that there's the key titles, correct titles, and by the way, Christ is not should be a bad word. Christ just means anointed. Actually, the beginning of Christ, the correct sound of it actually means anointed. So that's why he should really be the Christ instead of just Christ. If he's the Christ, he's the anointed one. That's the context of it. Even though in Hebrew there's no the, but when we say, when we put sentences together and stuff like that in Hebrew, so-called sentences, we're supposed to put it in such a way that a person says, oh, okay, we're talking about the Christ. Like there's no, like he's above. So you should always make sure in your Hebrew that whenever you're mentioning the Mashiach, right, or Mashiach, you're always making sure you construct yourself to where he has to be higher than anything, or at least in a manner where you say there's no way anybody could confuse who we're talking about, right? But that being said, right, when it comes to the Christ and it comes to him, it comes to what he wants for us, a lot of us forget that he's the one in charge. He's the Christ. He's the anointed one. And if anything's done in his name, that could include you having to suffer for him as long as it takes. Christ might have you suffer. Mashiach, Messiah, anointed one, the anointed one. He might have you suffer or choose. You might have to choose to go through something a long time, and through that you're going to learn humility. I can only imagine being the high priest of Israel. I can only imagine that I'm not. But I can only imagine being in a position, just in the position I have, sometimes being over at a time, sometimes thousands, whatever. I can only imagine what it is to be over, hundreds of thousands, millions, right? Right? Millions. And being the one and having to go and having to realize that I might have to suffer through. Day of Atonement is coming up on October the 1st. And when we do Day of Atonement, I do what's represented. I'm not going, well, who knows? Prayerfully, when we do Day of Atonement and we do the same process and we talk about it, we go through it. And, the high priest, which for us, for our organization is myself, the high priest has to go behind the curtain. And he's got to wear, and he would wear chains and some would even say he had bells, right? But he had chains and bells and stuff, and it had to be noisy. Why? Because he would go back behind the curtain on behalf of the whole nation, and as he went behind the curtain on behalf of the whole nation, he could lose his life. Now, one might say that's not fair, that's not this, right? But somebody has to be a sacrifice. So it's not just the sheep that they would take, right? They would take the ox blood and put it on there. They would take the sheep's blood, and then the scapegoat would be let go and all that, right? So it's not just that was part of it, but somebody would have to do a sacrifice on behalf of the whole nation. And if the nation wasn't correct, that person might have to die on behalf of the entire nation. Right? This is who Yehoshua was. He was not just only the sacrificial lamb. He was not only just the ox, the father, who had to be sacrificed. A lot of you missed that. On the Day of Atonement, it's not just Yehoshua. It's not just the sheep. It's blood that would have been on the altar. It was the blood of the father. It was the blood of the ox. If you don't know, Aleph or Alav, which is the first character, represents the father. It also represents source. It also represents cultivation. But it also represents an ox, the strength of an ox. So when you sacrifice the blood of the ox, you're sacrificing the blood of the father. Remember, see, okay, I'm going to repeat some of this real quick, because I know somebody might not catch it. Somebody might be confused, because once again, we don't always infuse cultural values, right, in this, or we're not always sensitive to the fact that many may not have ever been taught the culture of those who live in the Bible, or your culture that you should have always had. So let's do this real quick. You ready? Let's go ahead and do this real quick. All right, I'm gonna start real quick again. I'm gonna try to get this done in just a few minutes. All right, just a few minutes. So watch this. The Day of Atonement coming up October 1st. Tomorrow we're gonna really start hammering home these holy days and going through the holy days thing, getting us ready for the last 3 holy days. It'll be back to back to back, basically. September 22nd, October 1st, October 16th, and 13th. But a lot of persons don't get that on the Day of Atonement, once again, the shepherd, the high priest of all of Israel, had to go behind had to go behind the back curtain, right? The veil that was ripped and twined after Yahushua's sacrifice. Somebody would go behind there on behalf of Israel every year, and they would have chains on, they would have ropes with the chains, they would have bells, and they would do all that because if the sacrifice not only was not done correctly as far as procedurally, but if Israel had not been in a favorable position with Yah, they would have to know that the high priest couldn't make it. So being the high priest is being a living sacrifice in and of itself, because people go, well, the high priest, and how come you have to give to the Levites, and this and that. This man, if this high priest is really who he says he is, he got to be willing to give up the ghost. He got to be willing to die, if it be Yah's will, because somebody has to pay the price, right? Now his sacrifice was never going to be enough. That's why we did it year after year after year, and every few years or so, whenever Yah would decide, somebody would die, but it was never enough for eternity, because even the high priest before Yehoshua, our high priest, none of them were ever without sin, right? So every day we should do this daily, right? Crucify the flesh daily, right? But the high priest once a year would go behind them, and I think about that heavy, especially on the Day of Atonement, right? And leading up to it, I think about that heavy because to myself, I know what it is to be in a position to where you'll feel somebody going through something. Real talk. Like you'll feel it and not even know it, and then come to find out later on this happened, or to have it to where, you could have no exaggeration. I could have hundreds of different things that person could have thrown at me over, in the course of a few months. And you're praying and you're fasting, you're also hoping that, you're able to feed yourself enough to make sure that you can even sustain enough thought process to pray and not feel down and stuff like that. Have Yah protect you while you're asking for protection for others, right? But I can't imagine being the high priest of a whole nation, trying to teach, preach, developing relationships with persons, developing relationship with children, developing relationship with all these different persons that are there, right? And then all of a sudden, You got to go back and you got to say to yourself, ooh, and you're going back there, you're praying on behalf of everybody. You think, and I'm just making up names, but you're thinking about little Obadiah. You're thinking about little, you know, Zion. You're thinking about little Solomon. You're thinking about, you're thinking about all these different persons, and you're saying to yourself, wow, anything that they've done, and you know that all have sinned and fallen short. You're thinking about your ministerial staff. You're thinking about the person who's listening. You're thinking about the person that just comes to you from time to time, right? And you got a lot. You're thinking about a whole bunch of different things that are going on, and then you go, man, I hope. Right? You would say to yourself, I hope that that God forgives. You be praying, and guess what? When see, watch this. This is when we talk about it being a nation. When you run as a nation, you run different, you think different. Watch this. As a nation, to yourself, you have to be sitting there saying, part of what's going on, you have to start saying to yourself, watch this now. Part of what's going on, you have to start saying things to yourself like, man, I'm really praying, I'm really hoping, I'm really gonna work with so and so. Why? Because it's symbiotic. If they don't get it together, you might not live. The culture of it is different. That's a different cultural statement. I might not make it through. I might not live to see tomorrow if I don't make sure so and so's together, or at least I've done everything in my power. Right? But then also, I want you to think about this now. If we truly love each other, but in the person who we're praying for and we're thinking about heavy and all that stuff, and we're making a sacrifice for, but then hopefully somebody else will say, okay, the prophet, the priest, the Levite, the pastor, whatever, the cut, the assembler, etc., the teacher, the marah, hopefully they saying to themselves, you know what, they're putting themselves out there quite a bit. Hopefully I start acting right because I don't want to see them go. You see that? These are things that we're supposed to keep in mind, how we're supposed to love one another, be there for one another, teach one another, think about one another, right? Sacrifice, be a living sacrifice. Just semantics are important words and meaning. Oh, okay. Okay, well, I don't know. I guess we'll talk about offline or something. Okay, well, we need to. All right, if we can focus on the word, right? I don't know what's going on. It seems like we having the same thing happening every single time. If we do, I guess we just have to stop the, you know. Well, anyways, all right. So, and thank you. Was it God Brew Culture? Okay, thank you for being on with this. How you doing, Ruth? Thanks for being on, and thank y'all for sharing the live. Thank you for the love, all that great stuff. So if we have this mentality, right, and especially if somebody leading the family, right, especially if somebody leading the family, no problem. Somebody leading the family, we have to realize as the sacrifice or whoever sacrificed that we should at least, do what we can, because the only reason, watch this, the only reason why Yehoshua has to die is because of us. And he decided that it was important enough. And he did that hopefully so that we don't keep sending persons to the cross in his place. He just said in Matthew 24, many will try and be in his place. We don't need anybody else to be in his place. We don't need to keep saying how about now. He's already died that we might live. Right? So why do we keep doing things that cause persons to have to be on the cross? Why do we keep doing things that cause somebody to have to keep sacrificing in that way? Right? Why is it that your parents are still having to do some of those same things that maybe they shouldn't have to anymore? Why is it your wife is still having to do some of those same things that, hey, if you would just do what was supposed to, she wouldn't have to do that sacrifice. She could actually go somewhere else and do something else that's greater for you. Why is it that your husband is still having to do some of those same things? Right? It shows a lack of love, and it shows a lack of, watch this. What's happened now is whenever anybody says anything that shows any culpability, we're trying to live in escapability. Right? Watch this. Now, somebody who's listening, if the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, take it off. This might not be for you. Hear what I'm saying, beloved? Now, if there's culpability, now that there's some of us who will see we need to change, we need to do better, we need to be greater, there'll be somebody who will still try to now, instead of doing what's righteous, they will try to figure out a way to exit stage left. They'll still try to find out a way to exit stage left. Right? Rather than being like, you know what? I should be held accountable. Culpability should lead me to accountability. Somebody will see culpability and say, you know what? Escapability. I'm going to figure out how to get out of this. I'm going to figure out how to say, now that it's being shown, right, that I'm an issue. Rather than get better, I'm going to run. And I used to be a runner too. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. I used to be a runner, but at some point you got to say, you know, if Yah's word is true and if I'm really following it, then I can't run. I can't run from this. I got to be an example of Yah's will being done. But many would rather run away, right? And that's a word. That's a bar, Holy Spirit. I'm gonna say it one more again. I'm trying to say it again real quick, right? But that's a bar. Somebody need to hear that. That's really for real. That's a bar. Holy Spirit just told us. I'm gonna just repeat it again, right? That when it comes to culpability, many persons instead of accountability will try to go into escapability, right? Instead of standing on business, standing 10 toes down, saying, hey, I need to go ahead and act righteous and be better and be greater. What many persons will do instead is say, hey, you know what? If somebody calls me out for something and it's very clear that I'm wrong, I will try to figure out how to go to the next place and say that everybody else is wrong and I shouldn't do. I'm not saying that you can't be right and wrong about some things, whatever. What I'm saying, though, is that most of us won't even deal with the wrong nature at all. And so the first chance that we have to get out of being accountable, we will. We won't use culpability to help us with accountability. We'll use culpability to stir up our escapability. And that's wrong. Period. It just is. You can try to fix it whatever way you want. It's wrong. It just is. It's been wrong. It's been wrong. It's never been correct. Doesn't need to be right. It's never been correct. It's been wrong since the foundation of the world. So we had to ask ourselves, are we okay with this mindset? And if not, now what do we do to correct that mindset and to make sure that it can't have a place? Is that Yah's will for us? Does Yahweh want you to be accountable, or does he want you to keep escaping the truth? By the way, if you can't be accountable for correction, you can't be accountable. Let's do some teaching on something real quick. You ready? If you can't be accountable, right, as far as the truth, as far as doing what Yah says, right? If you can't be accountable for that, I'm here to show you something. You can't be accountable for the blessing. You can't be accountable for the birthright, right? The only way you get the blessing is the birthright. We talked about that earlier, correct? You guys recall we talked about that? Right? You get the birthright because of the lineage. You get in the lineage because you're in the will, in his will, right? Okay. So if I'm going to, a lot of persons don't get this. Accounting. We only think about accountability in the negative context. Right? We only think about accountability in the negative context. I'm going to say that again. Somebody need to hear that. Right? We usually will only think about accountability in its negative context. So if we think about accountability only in the negative context, what happens is you guys don't realize that accounting is us looking at all the numbers. Right? Like, if I've said this before, if somebody really, really wanted to try and get some stuff in order in their lives, and forgive me for looking down real quick, I'm just trying to get another platform up and running for us real quick. Right? A lot of persons don't realize and recognize that if I'm accounting something, I'm not looking at just only the negative thing. Now, some of us do this, right? Like, that's what you account for in your relationship. So that's why some of you have those arguments that turn into crazy stuff because you guys don't even think about positivity, right? But when I'm accounting for everything. If I can't find certain things, that's part of the accounting. I'll come and say, hey, I found this much, I found we're in the red here. I found we're in the black here. I found this. I found that. But I can't find what's going on with these. That's part of accounting. We're looking for everything. Not just for something. But we're looking for what? For everything. Okay. Now, why is it important to catch that? Why is it important to catch? In accounting for something, I need to be looking for everything. Well, if I'm looking for everything, right? If I'm looking for everything, here's the deal. If I'm looking for everything, what it means that I'm not just only looking for the things that make me look great or feel great or whatever, or I'm not only looking for a way to diss somebody and tell them why they're bad, but I'm looking for them in their holistic nature and holiness. The whole person. I'm eating the whole scroll. Right? I'm looking for the whole scroll. I'm not looking for a piece of it. I'm looking for it in its entirety. Right? I'm looking to be holy, if you will. Right? I'm looking to be 100%, 100. I'm looking to make sure that I'm preaching everything full stop. I'm not adding or taking away. Right? And so a lot of us, what happens in this journey too, is it's difficult for us to come together and work and not keep stopping and keep arguing with each other, because for real, we're not trying to be whole. We're not trying to be holy. We're only trying to account for the things that we want. A lot of persons don't realize that you can't be led by Holy Spirit and get what you want, because guess what? You don't want. Yehovah is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. The dawn is my shepherd. But really, it would be Yehovah, right? It's all caps, capital Lord, right? In the spelling, right? So it would be Yehovah. Yehovah is my shepherd, and if he is my shepherd, if I be his sheep, I shall not want. I shall not what? I shall not want. Amen. Try the spirit to see if it's a little something. Right? So if Yehovah is my shepherd, I shall not what? I shall not want. If I want, that means I lack. Remember, words mean words. So if I do not want, I do not lack. If I want it, I lack it. And if I lack it, it means that it can't be what Yah has for me. Because if Yah provides all my needs according to his riches and glory, but I still want something, thinking I lack it, then that's coveting. That's against the 10 Commandments, enough. And thank y'all for the love. Appreciate you. Right? See, you got to stand on this. When persons will look at you and say, that's crazy. Why are you so focused on words? Because man should not live by bread alone, but by every word. So if you keep telling me you want, then you're something not right in your kingdom mentality. I'm not saying you don't have a righteous disposition, but you can have righteous intent and still not be righteous. How you doing, Sister Deborah? You can still love the word, but not believe in the law. Right? You can still hear great preaching and 90% of it be true, but that 10% could be the thing that's stopping you from working out your own salvation, especially if you don't think works matter, even though Revelation chapter 20 and verse 12 tell you different. Right? That's the place where John doesn't know what's going on, and he sees the angels, and they're looking through the scrolls, and he says, and the angel sees, the angel that's with John says, oh, you wondering what that is? They're checking out to see who follows the word and what their works are doing, and if their works match what they say they have faith in. If it does, faith and works coming together is what allows their name to be written in the scroll or the book of life. If they don't have their stuff together and they don't follow the word, then their name's not written in the book of life. I appreciate that if you would like to give or whatever, it's on our, it's actually if you go to our, just on the page on that platform you're on, if you'd like to give, really on any of these platforms, you can be able to see the description with the video, or if you'd like to give on this particular platform, just real quick, look on our, if you would like to, feel free to look on our main page in either the, I forget what it's called, the, look where either where it says website, or look where it says description or something right under the name, and you'll see that it has that information, and it also has information if you'd like to connect with us, see what we're talking about, etc. Yeah, but see, but we got to eat the whole scroll, right? We have to have the faith and the works. Matter of fact, I'm here to tell you, whatever your faith is in is what your works follow. Because if they don't, then you're just somebody who's disobedient. If you have faith that Yah is Yah, if you have faith that Yah's in control, then your work as if he's in control. But if you have faith that Yah's in control and you don't do any work, then you're still disobedient. You hear what I'm saying? Some of us are still disobedient. We know what the word says. We know what Yah's promises are, and we're still not doing it. We know who around us needs to get their life in order to stay around us. Oh, I'm not a God, right? So I'm not that, and I'm not coming against your belief system. I'm not a God. Once again, God is a Germanic word. It's not even an Afrocentric word. God is a Germanic word that means you can worship whatever you want. I don't worship myself or others. So when we Alacham, the fellow Alacham is different. But thank you, I appreciate the sentiment. But you hear what I'm saying? Like we have to get into a position. All you have in this world is your word. Come on. We got to be in a position where our word is true. Where Yah's word is true. Right? Which is even more important. If Yah be in us, then why would his word not be true? If his word is in me, therefore, there's an easy way to follow. He says, once again, try every spirit to see if it's of Elasham, or as persons like to say, try the spirit by the spirit. If Yah says pray, pray how he says pray. Right? If Yah says pray, make sure your prayers don't get hindered. That's what James chapter 1 verse 8 is about. Being double-minded. When you read that whole chapter, we discover that being double-minded is that persons try to come before the Most High and pray, but they don't even live what they say, live the life that Yah says you're supposed to live. But how can you come to him and ask for shalach, or for a petition, and go before him, and yet you can't really truly get petition, which is a request of the man based off of your constitutional rights, and you don't follow the Constitution, you don't follow the word, you don't follow the law. If you don't follow the law, then why should he recognize your request? Person don't like to speak like that, but that's real. That's the truth. That's the word. Let Yah be true, and let every man be a lie. Is that his word? Hello, F shit. I'm not even really talking about that today, but I mean, did the Messiah die for our sins? I don't know. I mean, I think the answer is pretty simply like yes, as far as what my belief obviously extends to. So I don't know if there's like no offense, but if there's like because today's not Q&A day, we just did Q&A Thursday and Friday. We do it every Thursday and Friday, or every other Thursday and Friday, to allow everybody to ask away fire with questions and stuff. So I would just, if there's like you're trying to like get to a place. I'm not trying to say I don't know if you are or not. If you're trying to say that you believe something different or whatever, then feel free to just go ahead and make the point, and then I'll see if it actually fits in what I'm talking about today. Other than that, thank you for being on. If you actually just a legit question, did Christ die for our sins? And yes, if there's something else to it, then feel free to go ahead and let me know, and I can actually see where we're going. Welcome either way, right? And I only say that because we get a lot of persons who take this off the rails and troll and stuff, so I can't tell. So I'm just asking if you don't mind, if you could just kind of be more specific if you're going somewhere, right? It was legit. Okay, I'm just being honest. I want to be fair. So if it's legit, I'm done. Thank you for being on. But yeah. So if we're going to this route of these things or whatever, then it's got to be holistic, and we can't start it and then just be like, oh, it looks like it's gonna be tough. It's so crazy too. Like, how you guys into sports and all that stuff, and you want to talk about all these, so and so Dick Butkus, he was tough, and Ray Lewis, he was tough, and Mike Ditka, he was tough, and this person, he was big and tough and strong, and this person didn't give up, and Tom Brady, he worked, and Michael Jordan, he never gave up, and they couldn't stop him once he started going, and Kobe Bryant's mind, and all this stuff, and then you get a little bit of pushback, and you're mad. Not just mad, you're big mad. For somebody saying that, right? And that actually shows us some stuff, because you're going to have to stand and see the salvation, see things go back to the original intent. That's what salvation is. Stand and see the salvation of the Most High Yah. And I'm here to tell you that means that you're going to have a lot of persons who you swore were so tough, and they presented themselves as so high-minded and so righteous, and they never could, and nothing could push them away, and nothing could separate them from the love of Yah. And then all of a sudden, somebody you teach, or you simply just stand on principle. You stand on the origin. You stand on the word. And You say, no matter what, I'm not shifting. I'm not going to allow this to go off. Even if I don't like, and I tell persons this all the time. I know pastors are not supposed to admit this. There's times where Yah tells me to do something and I don't want to do what he says. I don't even like what he's telling me to do. But that's where obedience comes in. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Sacrifice means you'll do it once. A lot of persons will sacrifice here or there. A lot of your children, right? When you're trying to train them up to take out the trash and stuff and train these boys up, the boy will take out the trash once, right? He'll remember, but then he'll leave it in the garbage next day or the next day, or he'll forget to make sure you take the garbage out. You got smelling garbage and stuff. That's because he's not obedient yet. Obedience when it becomes so habitual that you don't have to tell him. He'll do it whether he likes it or not. Before he goes to the playground with his friends, he'll go, ooh, 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 hold on. I don't want to get in trouble with my mom. I don't want to hear mama. I want to hear dad get on me or whatever. I ain't trying to get no whooping. Let me just go ahead, take this to the corner. Let me just take it to the curb, right? Obedience. That's obedience. Whether you feel like it or not, let me just be obedient. Let me just do it now, right? Sometimes wives, you already know. You look. You don't even feel like hearing your husband now. Okay, I know he's gonna say something about this. Let me just go ahead. I don't even feel like this. It's not because you like it, it's not because you agree with it, but you're like, hey, what is this hurting anybody to just do? Let me just do this real quick. That's obedience. Hey, husbands, are there not times when you're sitting up there? Oh shoot. I know she's gonna say something, and it's not even my job. It's really my family job, or it's not even my job. It's about. I know she's gonna be upset if she see this like this. You know what? Let me go ahead. It's love. It's also obedience. Now we say we fear Yah in a similar manner, if not a greater manner. And guess what? Obedience is better than sacrifice. Doing it once and then telling everybody how you did it once is not the same as living it every day. Doing it once and telling everybody why you did it. And you're going to have to stand because there's going to be a whole bunch of disobedient brethren, ones you love, but they disobedient. You love them. They'll sacrifice from time to time. They'll sacrifice and come to this event. They'll sacrifice and provide a place for this. They'll sacrifice and say, hey, I'm going to worship with this. They'll sacrifice and do a couple of holy days. But when it comes to obedience, every day, living in order, etc., some persons just aren't going to do what they're supposed. Right? Also, too, by the way, just to make this clear, too, I want to apologize for anybody if I didn't say anything to you. If you're on this platform over here specifically, and this platform especially, if you're on this platform, I usually can catch you sometimes coming in and out if I happen to see your name pop up. But if you don't say hi, I can't, it's not guaranteed I'm going to see you. So I just want to say that, too. I apologize because there was a little bit of stuff or whatever, so I just want to make sure if you're thinking, if I haven't said hi, if I haven't seen you, if you're on certain platforms and you don't say it, speak, I don't see your name. Okay? Like the chat in those platforms are different. On this platform, if you say hi or whatever, or if you don't, I can sometimes see it'll say so-and-so's coming on. But on these platforms I'm pointing at right now, if you don't say anything, I don't see you, I don't know what you're. Okay, so I just want to apologize for that and say to everybody, if I didn't say something to you today, I apologize. I'm sorry. How you doing, Daryl? Right? But just to make it clear, a lot of persons don't know once again, or we're not thinking once again about coming together and standing. You're going to have to be obedient. Remember, going all the way back to when we first started today, Habakkuk. Everybody just focuses on Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, write down the vision to make it plain. And it's an awesome scripture. It's bars, right? All that. Habakkuk is barred up. That being said, once we get to Habakkuk, we forget that Habakkuk is getting the vision for the second time. He didn't like what he saw coming the first time, right? He voiced that he didn't like it, but then he got back in position. He went back to stand his watch. He had started this journey, and rather than leave when times got tough because he didn't like what was happening, he told the truth, even in prayer. I don't like what's about to happen. That being said, I'm going to stay. Let me stand where I'm supposed to be, right? And let me hear what you have to say. See, let me stay. Let me get on watch. Let me stay on the wall. Let me get back where I'm supposed to. Let me stand watch. To stand watch. Watch is to guard. Let me stand and guard. Let me stay on guard. Let me be ready. Let me make sure that even though I know persons are about to do some wild stuff, I'm still going to stay in position. And he was basically, up there. He's basically your high priest, or pretty close to at the time. And he doesn't like what's about to happen. But he still stayed. Salah. You might not like what's about to happen, but you can still stay. And if you stay, you can help to fix it. There's nothing worse than somebody who's faithful for 40 years and then it gets tough for the first time and we don't see you no more. It messes up families. It messes up assemblies. Right? If you started it, don't stop it. If you started, you might as well stay. And if you're going to stay, you might as well stand. The standard didn't change just because times got tough. How you doing, Elder Tamara? The standard didn't change just because times got tough. The standard didn't change because you got less views. The standard didn't change because your money's a little funny. It's always interesting. When we have less money, we're more faithful to Yah than we are when we have more money. It's not just only when you go from more to less. Another person, when you go to less to more, all of a sudden, now that you got more of it, oh yeah, you know, Yah doesn't need. Now, when I couldn't afford to pay my bills at all, hey, Yah, you can have everything, take it all. But now you done got a little upgrade. Oh yeah, you know, Yah's word never said you were supposed to see your standard change. Whatever you keeping as your standard is changing. I see you. I think. Thank you, Madam. Right? Yeah, get behind me to the sacred, is what we should say. Right? The standard has changed. No standard shouldn't change. The problem is the standard has changed. I told persons this, I said before, I say it again, and I'm not trying to cause any confusion or madness or anger or whatever. I'm just being honest. If you are part of an organization, if you were part of SOC, I'm just, look, Holy Spirit, I'm not handling business. I'm just being honest. I can't shy away from the word. I'm not coming down on one particular person. I'm just being honest. If you're ever part of SOC and you decide to leave, and you say, I'm leaving, right? And therefore the doctrine changes. Remember, doctrine means instruction, right? If you leave and y'all says it's time to leave, fine, right? But I'm here to tell you now, obviously I'm partial. I'm partial, right? That being said though, hey, if you decide to leave and now all of a sudden everything that you said you stood for no longer is now trash because you're trying to get with somebody else or trying to do something different, then it means that you don't stand for truth. At least stay committed to the word, even if you leave in the organization. That's like if somebody was in a relationship, this happens a lot too. You're in a relationship and your spouse does you dirty and cheats on you. And so you say, you know what, from now on, every relationship I get into, ain't no such thing as love anymore. The gloves are off. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to have side pieces, whatever. Well, then you worse than what you came from. Like if you know what that does to folks in the family, and you're going to do the same thing or take it to the next level just because you got hurt. See, that's why forgiveness is there. Forgiveness ain't just for you, it's for them. Or not just for them, it's for you. Here you are not forgiving, and so you're allowing your unforgiving heart to make sure that now you're going to break apart families and break apart Yah's will and hurt other persons and mess up people's children and stuff because you can't, because you got hurt. You see what I'm saying? Like the standard shouldn't change. Even what you started, you should stay in what you start. If it's the word of Yah, then it's the word of Yah. How did it change because you left? Or how did it change because you mad? I'm just keeping it a buck. How did it change just because you don't like you don't like the apostle anymore? You don't like the presiding prelate anymore. You don't like the monarch anymore. You don't like the teacher anymore. You don't like the evangelist anymore. You don't like the pastor anymore. So now all of a sudden, everything that was there, but was it real or was it not? My will is that I stay on point until the end of my life. Right? My goal is for y'all to never hear Pastor Kofi was cheating or doing anything crazy like that. My goal is that you guys never see that Pastor Kofi was out here lying to y'all. And if I do make mistakes or I fall short or whatever, my goal is to always make sure that I tell you guys the truth. And it'll be like, yeah, you know, I forgot this day, or I was supposed to do this, and I don't lie to try to say, oh no, I didn't forget, and blah, blah, and become that dude. That's my goal, is to be forthright and honest. I'm human, so I'll make mistakes, for sure. That make mistakes different than just outright messing around, but I will make mistakes. I'm a human being, but there's certain ones I'm pretty sure y'all are never gonna hear. I gotta say pretty sure. I want to say 100% sure, but I'm not y'all. So I'm gonna say I'm 99.9999999% sure. There's certain sins you just not gonna hear with me. That being said, though, yeah, I will make mistakes. But even if something crazy ever happens, I would hope that if you say, okay, until Pastor Kofi gets himself together, we gone. In the meantime, though, if it's righteousness that I was teaching, I would hope that you put the word before me. If the word is correct, then roll with the word. Even if you never come back to SOC or come back to be what we're doing. Right? That's the spirit we should be under. How you doing, Sister Tia? How you doing, Yanni? Right? That's the mindset that we should have. That's how we grow. And we gotta stand. There are a lot of persons who will not stand and stay on the word. Don't start this and then leave when it gets tough. Don't start this and be like, because it's tough, I'm gonna say, no. This is why you have to know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. Some of these babies who started with us are not gonna have Pastor Kofi and whenever y'all says it's time. So some of these babies, right? I was just thinking about this getting ready for the message today, and when we were in ministerial prayer earlier today, I was thinking about this, how there are going to be some who are going to be with us, right? Going to come and be part of what we're doing. And I might be at the end of my life, old man, and they see me a couple times, right? When they can recognize me, they see me a few times in comparison to what you guys have, and I'll be gone unless if I come back before them. And they'll probably say to some of y'all like, or you'll be like, oh man, Pastor Kofi, we gotta do this, or it's a sad day, prayerfully maybe it'll be, it's a sad day that Pastor Kofi is left, and blah blah. And somebody will go, and they might go, well, I mean, who is he? Right? And they might not know a lot of stuff. They may or may not go back through all the stuff I've been teaching. There might be other persons at this point who are preaching and teaching way more and are known more for SOC stuff. And I hope that, whatever y'all doing with SOC continues. So I'm not even tripping off that. But I've come to a place where I'm actually very content. As long as the word goes forth. I'm at a place where I'm very content that child might not know me and might not know how much work that I helped, that I put in to help us to create what we're creating and continuing to create every day, or be creative with every day. They might not ever know the depths of the levels of stuff that I went through. That being said, as long as they have land, that's the goal. Can they have the land? Can they have the food? Can they have the shelter? Can they have the water? Can they have the mindset? Can they have the materials? Can they have the books? Can they have proper families? Can they have privacy instead of government being in all that stuff? Right? If they have that, then nothing I did was in vain. Matter of fact, if it be for y'all, nothing's ever in vain anyways. But you get what I'm saying? Right? If they have that, right? If my son and his wife are straight and their children are taken care of, I did what I was supposed to when I leave, right? And I know that my grandchildren will be able to take care of their children, then I'm leaving the world righteously. If there's somebody else whose children who can't stand me right now, and their children eventually come into knowledge of who Yah is and helps us out and join Israel, not even necessarily SOC, off of something that we at SOC do. That's what it's about. But that's what we're standing for. Do you not realize that you have been called to stand in the muck and watch it become clean? Have you not realized that you've been called to stand in the muck and be there, and your presence be what cleans it? Do you know that you can be cleansed in the midst of dirtiness? I see you, Sister Shirley. I'm on. Right? You hear what I'm saying? You can be cleansed in the presence of filth. You don't believe me? Where is it at? Oh, my greatness. Where is this at? Where is this at? Is it 1 Samuel? 2 Samuel? I might be in the wrong place. I believe it's 1 Samuel. Is it 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, somewhere around there? Where you have the leprous, I'm forgetting his name right now, but the leper who came and went to the king and couldn't get clean, or the king was upset and thought he was going to take his life, and he sent him to the prophet, and the prophet didn't even come out the house. He was upset because the prophet didn't do it the way that he wanted him to do, because the prophet had Yah's business to take care of. So the prophet said, "I'll send somebody else out." Naaman is his name, Naaman, right? And how you doing, Brother Craig? And Naaman. And Naaman came, he came and he was upset because the prophet said, I need you to go into the water. Now, this is not obviously the same thing. I need you to go into the river or over here in Israel. And he didn't want any parts of that water, any parts of that river. He said, matter of fact, he said, man, shoot, I come from a kingdom that's greater than here. He said, I got power. I got army. I got all this. How they gonna have me go in their river? Couldn't I just gone? I could have just stayed where I was. He was upset because he thought the prophet was gonna come out and everybody's gonna be singing and dancing and we're gonna see all the bells and whistles going on. And the prophet said, no, like, just tell him to go in the water. And he went in the place to where he was at. And if it wasn't for his friend, I praise God for his friend. Sometimes everybody needs a friend who will stand when you're ready to give up. He was ready to give up. He was going to go back home. Thank you all for the love. And how you doing, Todd Smith? Thanks for being part of the community. He was going to give home. It was over. It was done. It was like, okay, I'm out. He didn't give me what I wanted. He didn't give it to me the way I wanted. He didn't blah, 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 right? And many of us, when we get that, when something happens like that, we say, okay, I'm out, I'm done. Y'all can do this on your own. You know, your pastor, your whatever. This is your pastor. Now, this is your, you know, stuff changes, right? Because we're basically throwing a hissy fit. We didn't get what we wanted when we wanted it. And so now it's whomever's fault, right? Right? But his friend said, hold up, we started this. Remember, start, stay, stand. He said, we started this. We came on this journey. He said, the reason we came here is because you couldn't get healed anywhere else. And if it wasn't for a little Hebrew girl, right, if it wasn't for an Israelite girl who was a slave over here, and right, and your wife hearing it, and your wife who loves you, making sure that you now heard it, and you took all this stuff, and the king wants you to be healed because he sees what you're doing for him. He sent you with all this clothes. And how you doing, babe? My wife is on the Alabama. Thank you so much for being on, babe. Love you. He said you came with all this clothing, and with all these servants, and with all this show of strength, and with all this show of power. And you came here, though, because with all the power that you have, you're leprous. Your life is falling apart. Your body is literally falling apart. He said, you started this. He said, what do you think we came here for? Sometimes you need a friend to remind you. Sometimes you need a spouse to remind you. Sometimes you need a fellow believer to remind you that you're so busy trying to give up when times get hard. But you came here because this is where the healing is. Yeah, it's not exactly what you wanted. For the earnest expectation of the creature. Yeah, the creature is waiting on the manifestation of the children of Yah. Romans 8:19. I'm sorry, you said that earlier too. I apologize, I didn't get to it, but thank you for putting that up again. Right? But sometimes you need a reminder. You came here for the healing. Do you not realize that the only reason that you, some of you, right? Even some of you that are here today, or sometimes somebody shares this and says, hey, come on here, how you doing, sit down? Or sometimes you're going through things in your life. And for some of you, the only reason why you're here is because you needed the healing in the first place. Right? So for some of you, your testimony that you told me is that you didn't even like me for a while. But there was something about me, and then I started teaching. Some of you thought he got a big head, he blah, blah, whatever. And then you started listening going, oh, okay, something's there. Something makes sense. There's more to it. And before you know it, right, all of a sudden, some of you were listening just because, hey, at least there's something positive coming out. Right? Your testimonies are different. I'm talking about testimonies of reasons you guys have told me. You've been part of this and continue to be part of this and I continue to do this. Thank you, babe. I appreciate that, right? Some of you, and so, but what I'm saying is ultimately, regardless of the vessel, you came and you came for the healing. Right? If you're coming to the kingdom, you come for the healing. If you're coming for the word, you're coming for the healing. This is the word, is what's healing. Right? And it's going, the word, the seed that's being deposited is supposed to grow and manifest into a nation. And the nation, the kingdom is growing in you, connects to the nation, the kingdom is growing in your partner. Partner being the person that's watching with us. How you doing, Sister Sherry? How you doing? Praise God for you. So all these things are happening in the kingdom. Right? All these things are coming together. We're in the kingdom. And the goal now is to come to what we need. We're coming together because we need each other. We love each other. We need each other. We're growing with each other. We honor Yah. We honor his word. Regardless of how tough it gets. Regardless of how frustrating the world is. I know you need housing. Thus saith Yehovah of hosts. I know you need housing. You don't think I don't know you need housing? But just because the housing situation is tough doesn't mean that what I've sown into you goes away. I know you need relationship. You feel like you're by yourself. But it doesn't mean that what you're getting isn't enough. At least for this season, my grace is sufficient. You need to come on, brother. Come on. Somebody needs this. Come on, Brother Alton. Somebody needs it too. I need this. I need this. I know you feel sick. But it doesn't mean that the word is being spoken over your life and the prayers that are being given, the prayers of the righteous availeth much. And you're thinking because, oh, I didn't get over the sickness yet, that the prayers don't matter. No, time out. The prayers of the righteous availeth much. Do you know how much foolishness and wickedness and years of evil and stuff have been sown, and bad eating habits and all that have been sown over many years to get you to where you are? Now the healing comes in and it just started, and here it is, you ready to give up, as if just because you've been living a sick life for maybe 20, 30, 40 years doesn't mean that you can't be made whole over the next 20, 30, 40 years. Just because he didn't snap his finger and you didn't jump out and everything's not finished, right, doesn't mean that he's not snapping his finger. Remember, there's even a scripture where there was a blessing that had been released and they had to fight over it. It was fighting. Right, the spirit, it was being fought over in the spirit for all this time, and it finally got to the person. The person prayed for it, and it looked like to the person that, hey, they got it when they prayed for it, or when it basically needed to get there. They didn't realize that when they prayed for it in eternity, y'all already knew they needed the blessing, had already released it. The fight had already been going on for a long time. So even when something just shows up, when you think, oh, I just prayed for it, and it just showed up, you don't even realize that could have been an eternal battle that was going on, because y'all saw that you needed something before you even saw need of it. And rather than wait for you to finally get to a place where you agree, just like with Adam. Remember, why is Adam given the assignment of keeping the garden and naming the animals? Why is he given that assignment? Because by doing that, he will discover that he needs helpmeet, which is the actual name of who you call Eve. He needs a wife. Every other creature has somebody that helps them to multiply. Adam doesn't know that. But Yah says before Adam even catches on and comes into agreement with Yah's will, Yah gives him an assignment so he can see the necessity, see that he's without something, and see that what Yah wanted for him before he came into agreement with it was already something he was ready to release. Once Adam finally said, oh, I see, I need to help me. Everything else has one except me. Then Yah put him to sleep. Right? So you could be doing Yah's will, and Yah could say, hey, I know that so-and-so, and thank y'all for the love. Yah says, y'all might know that you are in need of something, but he knows that you won't even accept it yet. Because just like Adam is perfect. Adam is without sin. Adam is strong. Adam is healthy. Adam is virile. Right? Adam is fertile. Adam is loving. Adam is caring. Adam has relationship with the Most High. Why would he need relationship with anybody else? Until Adam's given a work and an assignment that shows him that the occupation, the work that he's actually been given, is something that he needs a helpmeet with. Once he realizes he needs the helpmeet, watch Adam all of a sudden begin to change and for the first time to multiply. Same thing with you. Some of you are going through something right now and you're ready to stop, not realizing that Yah has you going through some of the stuff because he's trying to show you the necessity. So, right? Some of you are just looking for the next house. You're just looking for the next car. Right? You're just looking for the next job. Yah says, I'm trying to get you to see what you need, not what you want. Remember, your want is your lack. With Yah, you don't lack anything. You're so busy talking about what you lack or what you want that you haven't even taken care of the things that provide your needs. That's our Malachi series in a nutshell. I love you. Well, how do you really love me? Provide for the nation. Why should I provide for the nation? Can a man really rob Yah? This is the issue. This is the issue. See, Yah's trying to show you what it is so that you'll see his needs for you, right? Because when you start to become one with him, whatever you need is what he needs. If we're one, if there's a symbiotic relationship, if Adam names the animal a bear, Yah says, oh yeah, I knew you were going to name it a bear because we're one. So whatever my mind is what your mind is. Whatever my spirit says is what your spirit says. Whatever I would have spoken and had manifested is what you would speak over my manifestation. When you become one, Right? Anybody married long enough will tell you sometimes you start finishing each other's sentences, or there's times where Elder Alma and I, we're not even in the same place, and she'll be on a live session and she'll be speaking something, and I'm already thinking about it, or she'll be talking to somebody, and I'm already in the midst of doing something that she's saying that she want to do, or I'll be on a live session and she'll be finishing my sentences on the other side and stuff like that, and we'll be talking, and she'll start, because we've been around each other long enough to where there's certain things that even if we're in disagreement, we can still sometimes finish each other's sentences, because when you're around somebody long enough, when you become one with them enough, when you live like them enough, when you live with them enough, when you finally start to even become a living sacrifice for somebody else and say, I'll learn your love language or your dialect of your love language, then what happens, come on somebody, what happens is that now you get to a place to where you're so, come on, in sync, that, and you're not even thinking about it, because guess what? It's not even thinking about how does the other person think. You just think because you think as one. If we're Yah's wife, how is it that I don't think like my husband? Come on, somebody. That's it right there. Holy Spirit, that's it. Somebody want to hear that. That's it right there. If you don't get nothing else, how is it that you married to the Most High Yah and you don't think like your husband? And how is it that your husband has given you his word to tell you what's on his heart, and you keep telling him, I don't understand what you're saying? Something's off. Right? If you're going to be in this, if you're going to start it, you're going to have to stay and you're going to have to stand. You know the first thing that causes a long marriage to be long? Come on, Holy Spirit. You know the first thing that causes a long marriage to stay long is you not going nowhere. You can really love somebody, but if you decide to go and never call them again, then your marriage ain't gonna work. Uh-oh. See, this is why it's faith and works. It don't make no sense. You could really, if somebody really, really loved you, right? If somebody really, really loved to care for you, etc., right? And I'm talking about they really love you, really care for you, nurture you. You know, you forgive me if there's babies watching or whatever, but you know the S life is great and all that stuff, and everything's cool with that. You guys finishing each other's sentences. You guys can't wait to be around each other. I mean, you really, 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 truly not just love as far as the action, but even like really care for, really are amazed by each other. Really take time out, even in disagreements. You say, you know what? We still love each other. But then somebody says, oh, okay. But I'm just going to go ahead and live somewhere else, and I'm never going to call you again. What kind of sense does that make? Right? But how many persons do that with Yah? Yeah, I know you love me. I know you care for me. This is Malachi in a nutshell, the whole scroll. Right? I love you, Yah. I care for you. I'll do whatever, this and that. But I'm not really waiting for you to. I'm not really waiting to live with you. I'm just looking for a job. I'm just looking for the next apartment, the next house. That's it. I'm not going to stand still and see salvation. No, I'm not here to stand still and see things go back to the origin. I'm not here to be patient. I'm not here to be a long sufferer. No. I mean, I like you enough to show up to service. I like you enough to even give a couple dollars here or there, give the molded bread, and give the little extras that I have and stuff to you. Especially now that I got a little promotion, I'm doing better. I got a little more money in my pocket. Y'all, you're gonna see a little less money because I'm in a better tax bracket now, so I got some different stuff that I'm trying to do. I don't really trust you. I mean, I'll build up my trust in my LLC, but I don't really trust you. I don't really see myself as a beneficiary. I'm not really trying to receive your love. I want the results, but I don't really want to do what happens. I don't really want to be married to you like that. I don't want to be forsaking all others. I'm not really trying to do that. Just give me from time. And this is the problem with a lot of persons. Once again, this is the dating mentality versus the marriage mentality. Because what happens with a lot of persons is that you guys know, or what you guys think is that you're supposed to get things that come with marriage, but you're supposed to go ahead and do so without actually being married. Remember, in our culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. So that's a whole other level to it as well, right? But you want what happens when two persons are qualified as husband and wife, pre-qualified already, come together, have built up stuff for each other before they even knew each other, and then once they got with each other, have made sure they built the mansion and prepared themselves to become one and to have a great family. Instead, what happens is that person say, hey, I want to be able to get a little piece, I want to have a piece of relationship, but I want full benefits. And that's basically what dating are, right? They used to call it friends with benefits. Some of y'all used to call it, forgive my language, I'm not going to say the word, but forgive my language with some fur. Some of you used to call it F buddies. And that's how you guys operate still, some of you. If the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, take it off. I might not be talking about you individually, but a lot of persons still have an F buddy mentality, a dating mentality, right? To where in your mind, what'd you say? What a man round you, they get round. That's right, Malachi chapter 3, right? And we're headed there. We'll be there probably, well, I don't know if we'll be there by Friday, but we'll be close to it by Friday in our series, right? Monday evening, Thursday evening, Friday evening. So we should be there probably, if not Thursday, Friday, right? Evening for the Malachi series we're in the midst of, right? But this is we gotta attack the thing. Come on, right? It's crazy, But we gotta be honest about this, right? Like we want the benefits of marriage to the Most High, but not because we have a relationship with Him. Like we'll show up, give me Sunday, give me Shabbat, give me a couple hours in the line, but don't hold me accountable for nothing else. If you start holding me accountable for stuff and you start telling me that there's things, then I'm not trying to hear it. Don't tell me that, hey, everything around me needs to be holy or at least be held accountable. I'm not trying to hear that because I'm in as long as it doesn't, I'm not expected to do more. That's what a lot of us are. Where a lot of us are. Hey, yeah, I'll stay as long as you don't ask me to stand on principle. If you ask me to stand on principle, thank you so much, but I have other things to do today. You hear what I'm saying? This is the standard that we live by. That's what you understand. So you're trying to overstand that, great, but you should understand, yeah. And all you're getting, be under His standard. Get an understanding. But so many of us are running. So many won't date at all. And I'm like, we shouldn't really, but let's even go into the dating world. Some of you won't date at all because there's a standard, right? Even in dating, there's a standard. The dating standard in the world is crazy. It's kind of jacked up. But even in that, there's a standard. But what many of you want, once again, like for example, can I say something? Look, it's gonna mess with you. And sisters just hanging there because we're gonna talk about the fellas in this too. I'm just going by what Holy Spirit says. We almost finished for today anyway, right? We go a little bit over to the Sunday, but I don't really have much, right? Unless Holy Spirit tells us to move somewhere different. We're coming up on the end. Watch this. Sisters, I'm here to tell you something. If you want, this is lack, right? Need is different than want, right? So lack is coveting. So if you covet, or if you covet, or if you want what the world says you should have, as far as the dating mentality, especially the dating mentality of the West is starting to really just take over everything. And your mind is, he better not even come to me and ask me on a date unless he can pay all my bills. What you're asking for is a husband without being worthy of him, or without seeing if he's worthy of you or you're worthy of him. You hear that? We're talking about standard. Understand? Standard. Okay? Sisters, if you're getting caught up in this whole thing, if he can't pay all my bills, if he don't make no less than $250, $150, if he blah blah, right? First of all, you haven't grasped the concept that you're supposed to help build. If he making $5 million when you come together, you're still supposed to help build. So if your mindset isn't, what is Yah's plan for you as well? Because I need to make sure I'm ready to build with you. You're not ready, right? And you might as well leave him alone, right? But if you haven't thought of the mindset to where you're supposed to be given affection and protection, if you're not coming in with the mindset of, okay, like once again, you have a dating mentality that the person should pay all your bills. But the person, according to the word, that pays all your bills is either your father or your husband. I'm not saying you can't get a business, all that, but even if you have a business, that God says your husband should at least be in a position, or at least trying his best to get there, to where he can make sure that he can take care of your bills, right? But that's for the wife, not for the girlfriend. That's for the wife, not the side piece. That's for the wife, not the sometime hokey pokey relationship where today I put my right foot in and you see all the stuff I'm doing and I take my right foot out and then I get shaky on you. But then all of a sudden you better just be okay because I exist. Same thing with brothers. Flipping it over to the brothers now at least. Brothers, you talking about, well, if she going to be with me, it better be 50-50. Why is it 50-50? If it's 50-50, as far as you taking care of her, if that's your mindset is 50-50, you must recognize then that you should also understand that why should she, if that's your standard, if you're so, like, I need you to catch this. See, because there's a whole bunch of ways we can go with this, but I'm be obedient. If your standard is she should bow down to you just because you're a man, right? In other words, because you have a phallus. In other words, just because you might be stronger than her physically. And matter of fact, watch this, it's not just her. What happens with you guys is y'all think that every woman, even though the Bible says every wife should submit to her own, the mission of her own husband, but you think that every woman, see, this is the problem, you think that every woman is under you, right? You said go with it, with everything, if it's that way, not leave her with everything to do. Okay, yeah, right? But what I'm saying, your mindset is that every woman's under you. So since you think that every woman's under you, remember, it's not called submission, it's called submission. She submitted to the mission, right? As long as you're submitted to the mission, that's the language. You think that it's a mansion. She submitted to you just because you're a man. She submitted to the vessel because the vessel pours into her, and the vessel makes sure that as far as the mission is concerned, she gets everything that's required to help enhance what you have. Because by enhancing what you are, she enhances what Yah is. That's what's supposed to be, right? Instead, and thank y'all for the shares, thank you for reposting, thank you for the love, right? Instead, right, you guys are in this mindset to where you think that just because she's a woman, she's automatically under you. This is why a lot of women on dates, even though I'm not even to the whole dating thing, the Bible does not have anything about dating in it. That being said, that's why when y'all go on these dates with these women, a lot of them feign ignorance. They feign stupidity. What do I mean? I mean that when they go on these dates with you, they pretend to be dumb. How you doing, Hebrew enrichment? They dumb themselves down so that you won't feel like you're threatened, because for them to simply be a helpmeet that can lift you up, you take offense and threat to it rather than being, well, if she's showing who she is and she's still interested in the mission, then that means that she's willing to submit to the mission. Therefore, she would be submissive to the person who is the head of this organization or family that's going to do this mission. But you don't even want to see who she fully is. She turns herself off and she keeps denying. And some of you get into marriages where you keep this facade up. And finally she gets sick of it and you say, where did this come from? It came from years and years and years, and not just you, but men in general, telling her she ain't nothing, this and that. And finally she says, enough is enough. I'm supposed to be loved. I'm supposed to be kept. I'm supposed to be desired. I'm supposed to feel pretty. I'm supposed to get my love language, spoken. I'm supposed to get that. And you're like, where is this coming from? She's dumbed herself down because you were so busy into something that's dated, which means that it runs out. It's antiquated. If you date, at some point the expiration date comes up. But marriage is eternal. Oh my goodness. Marriage don't go nowhere. Marriage is death do its part. Marriage doesn't have a date on it. Right? If you want to put a date on it, you put a date on when it started, but you can't put a date on when it ends. Oh my goodness. Somebody missed that. Right? When you walk down the aisle, right? When we finish the stuff, if Pastor Kofi ever is over your marriage and I take charge and I give you the charge and all the stuff over your marriage, right? It'll have a starting date on there, but I don't give an ending date. When you go to the store and you're looking for dates, it'll have an ending date or an expiration date or a sell-by date or all those different dates. It'll have an expiration date on there for you on that milk. You need that. It'll have an expiration date for you on them chips. You need that. It'll have an expiration date for you, even though it technically shouldn't have one, but maybe it'll have one on that wine for you, right? That being said, though, all those expiration dates, I'm here to tell you, when you come and you get married, as far as y'all's concerned, there is no expiration date. There is no, hey, when you get married, here's the date that you can go ahead and be released from. And we took it seriously, especially from birth, because we're supposed to train up husbands and wives. Train up a child in the way that they go. And you have never been trained on what a husband and wife is. Like we talked about before, You will not get a tattoo from somebody if they don't got their ink, their license together. You try not to get your hair done from women and men, I guess, who don't know how to use them chemicals, right? You try not to go to the barber unless the barber is licensed. You try not to get in the car or go down the street unless somebody's licensed, right? But all of a sudden, when it comes to your marriage, you've never been trained. You've just been told, go get a license with no training. Everywhere else, you got to pay and take classes and courses. Then make sure you got something posted on the wall. You're not supposed to teach a class unless you got stuff posted on the wall somewhere, right? And when it comes to your marriage, when it comes to your marriage, no wonder it's dated. No wonder it's expiration. No wonder you'll sign the prenup because you can't wait for it to end. You know it's going to end. You know you're not going to be faithful. You know they're not going to be faithful. And so, hey, when it goes ahead and happens, since this is what we're speaking into life, death and life and the power of the tongue, and those that love it eat the fruit thereof. Since that's what you're already thinking, that you're going to go ahead and mess up that great thing that was given. A lot of you don't even know. That's Proverbs 18:21 and 22. You got to put them together. How does Proverbs 18:21 go? Death and life in the power of the tongue, and those that love it will eat the fruit thereof. How does Proverbs 18:22 go right behind it? He who finds a wife finds the tabah thing and obtaineth favor from Adon. And if you read the verses before, you'll actually discover that it's talking to men specifically about marriage. So, but when you put 21 and 22 together, what does the whole thing say? What does it look like? It says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. So those that love it will eat the fruit thereof. He who finds a wife, she should already be qualified as a wife. He who finds a wife finds a tabah thing and obtaineth favor from Adon. What does that mean, brothers and sisters? That means that if you find a wife, you will find somebody who speaks life at the correct terms and death at the correct time, so the proper circumstances, and not to speak death all the time, right? But when you find somebody who speaks like that, who's trained as a wife how to speak like that, and who honors you as a husband and honors herself, and therefore you can love her and honor her, you have found something that is tabah, it is righteous, it is moral, it is eternal, and you will attain favor from Adon. Oh my greatness, if we made sure that we stood still and stood fast and started and completed proper marriages so that our children would see this, then they would go ahead and say, yes, the necessity of righteous marriage is there so that we can have a righteous nation. No wonder that Israel supposedly is coming back together, but we keep mistreating one another because we have not been taught righteousness or revisited the foundational prism, even the institution of marriage. Yes, marriage is an institution, meaning that those who enter into it should be institutionalized. I know you think of that as only negative, but no. If you go to a college, you were institutionalized. That's why you like to go back for homecoming. That's why you like to give your money back to it. That's why you can't wait to say whatever your college name is. That's why you can't wait until they go ahead and play again. You've been institutionalized. You think you're part of a family. Well, if you're part of this Israelite family, married to the Most High, having our marriage reflect the relationship between him and us, well then guess what? You must be institutionalized. Paul said that this is a mystery for many. This is what he said in Ephesians 5. He said, for many of you, what I speak is a mystery. But he said, no, it's not mysterious. I'm speaking about your relationship with the Most High. If you know how to have a relationship with Yah, you know how to have a relationship with one another. And if your marriage is strong, then guess what? You keep going in Ephesians 6, you'll treat your children correctly. You won't provoke them to wrath. And they will honor you and be able to live longer lives because of it. And because of that, you will make sure that you look out for darkness and wickedness and principalities of all places, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. This ain't really man against woman. This ain't really black against white. This ain't really, are you Hebrew enough? This ain't really my family is this and my family is more. No, what's really going on is that you're wrestling not against flesh and blood, but you're wrestling against principalities. What is a principle? It is an original, it is an origin, right? It's an original thing. We have to salvage it, go back, or right, go back, heal, and get back to the original intent of what Yah wanted for us. Right? This is what's going on here. So when you get to this place where you work this out correctly and the love of Yah becomes your love, now your actions, your achava, yachava, right? Your actions of Yah, Yahweh's love, his type of love, him infused in this love, his actions now allow you to make sure that you wrestle not against flesh and blood, but now you focus on the principle, the principality. And you can see the wickedness, because if it's not Yah's love, it has to be wicked. Right? You can see the wickedness in high places. You can see the darkness. You can see the princes and the principalities that are not of him. You can see how persons have changed the word. And because of that, now you walk around with what? The full armor of Yah. Right? Now you walk around with the helmet of salvation to make sure that your head is protected. You make sure that your breastplate of righteousness, right lawful standing, the law protects your heart and your vital organs. And if you got a great design one, you have one that goes around your whole body, and you learn how to fight with your brother so that your brother can watch your back, right? And while you're fighting with that, you got to make sure too that you have what? You have to make sure that you have on the belt of truth, right around your loins. The belt of truth is there because before you put on the chainmail, and even after, you got to put another one on too. You have on your tunic, and then you put the chainmail over your tunic. So you got to have the belt to tie so that you're not tripping when you're trying to fight. Some of you are tripping all over the place because you don't have truth tied around your loins. What's in the loins? What's in the loins? The loins are your intestines. What's in your loins? The loins can deal with your kidneys and stuff. What else is in the loins if we go a little deeper? It's your reproductive organs. You're not protecting the next generation by giving them the truth. So therefore, even if you win the battle, but your loins is gone, if you win the battle, but I'm sorry, brothers, forgive me for saying this is going to be an ouch. Forgive me, sisters, for being whatever. I'm just going to say it. It is what it is, right? Hopefully you take the context correctly. If you fight the battle and you win the battle, but you come home and your loins are jacked up and laying in the battlefield, well, guess what? No matter how many battles you won, you can't leave a legacy, right? The truth around your loins. The truth to protect the inside. The truth to protect your core. The core is the strongest part. If you don't have core strength, there's a lot of stuff you can't do. You can't do push-ups properly without core strength. You can't do planks properly without core strength. You can't do pull-ups properly without core strength. You can't do sit-ups properly without core strength. You protect the core. You protect what's going on. That's the truth. You belt of righteousness, and you protect the seed, the word that's coming, that's going to be able to go to the next generation and provide so that somebody else can multiply what it is that you've been given, and manifestation continues for generations. That's why you got to have your feet Shalom, right? I got on the Apostle Paul 7s. I got on the Apostle Paul 7s. I wear them all the time, right? Right. But in this, your feet have to be shod with the preparation of peace. So you take this and you put it around your feet. You got to make sure your feet are prepared to go to war, to go to battle, right? You got to have it. They had to have traction on the bottom of it. You got to go. Yeah, this is the 7s. The 7s, they just came out, right? The 6s is like that, but the 7s I got them, they just came out. but you hear what I'm saying? You got to have the shoes, your feet prepared, the sandals, your shoes tied properly. If you're gonna go play basketball, right? You go play basketball. What do? You tie the shoes tight. Don't just tie them loose. You tie them tight, right? You don't have low. You don't have low tops. You have high tops. Why? Because your ankles. You hear what I'm saying? You gotta have all those things together, right? And they're prepared with what? With the preparation of peace. Every step that I take should be in shalom, should be in peace. It should be in peace, right? This is why when I come into your house, what's the first thing I'm supposed to say according to the Bible? Christ sent us out 2 by 2. Our Messiah, the Christ, he sent us out 2 by 2. And when he sent us out 2 by 2, he said, don't worry about bringing a bunch of money. He said, you ain't gonna need that. He said, don't worry about bringing extra stuff to stay warm. You're not gonna need that. You're like, what? We live in a mountainous region. It's cold out here, bro. No, don't bring a coat. Don't bring extra money. Don't bring this, don't bring. He said, when you get to somebody's house, he said that persons are waiting for what you have. I know you don't think this is the case, but he said persons are waiting for what you have. I'm sending you to give you what somebody needs. Just like you came here because you get what you need, I'm sending you to give what somebody needs. And when I send you there, he said what you do is you knock on their door. And when you knock on and they open up, right? All you do is you speak peace, shalom. And in our culture, to speak shalom is something to speak peace. And as you enter in, let's see the peace that they give you back. He said if they don't give you peace back, see, this is what happens with some of us too. They don't give us shalom back. They're not trying to do what's righteous. They're not trying to be in the way. And what happens is we try to keep the door open, right? We try to be on our, I forget what's his name, Bruno Mars. We try to be on our Bruno Mars, right? We try to leave the door open, right? And no, if we come in somewhere and they won't give peace and they're against and they're this and that or whatever, and they're making you feel uncomfortable, don't stay there overnight. He said, get your things that you have, turn away, wipe the dust from your feet, and keep it moving. Right? Wipe the dust from your feet and leave that joker. Leave that place. Leave that organization. Leave that. If they're not going to give peace, wipe the dust from your feet. And it's tough. It's because you might know that cat. You might have been sent there because you know them, but if that person won't give peace, if you say shalom and they don't, and they want to go ahead, well, what's peaceful about it, right? Like Malachi, once again, Yah says, "I love you." Well, how do you love us? Yah says, "I was there for you and not for Esau." Prove it. Yah says, "You're not giving what you're supposed to." Can a man rob Yah? Sometimes you got to wipe the dust from your feet. Sometimes cats just be tripping, right? Sometimes you got to wipe the dust from your feet and know that Yah will keep you, and that the next place He sends you will give you everything, if not even more, than the place that wouldn't take you in, or wouldn't support you, or wouldn't accept who you are. Right? Your feet prepared with the preparation of peace. Shod with the preparation of peace. When you put your shoes on, when you put those spiritual shoes on, so to speak, you're putting on peace. If you don't walk in peace, don't walk at all. That's why your feet feel tender. Some of you get that reference. All right. And the next one after that is what? What do I need to do? What do I need to have before I even get an offensive weapon? All of this is defensive, right? All of this is defensive. Before I get an offensive weapon, I'm still giving yet something else defensive, right? Remember the helmet of salvation? We already talked about that. Salvages. That's the mindset of going back to the original intent. But now we're getting to this place of what? Where I need to make sure that I have the shield. The shield of what? Of faith. And it is my faith that quenches the darts. So my faith is there to quench the fiery darts, the spiritual things that are supposed to be trying to be cause me to become hellbound. The shield is designed to stop it, right? But you still have to be trained. A lot of you don't know that you got to be trained on how to use the shield. You have to have the shield be made correctly, right? If the shield is made correctly, arrows don't come through. But even if it is made through, you still got to hold it correctly, because somebody, if they get the right angle on you, might be able to come through. And so they might even have to train you, or sometimes having something come through and you still fighting through it. This is why you go through boot camp. For those of you who've never been, you go through boot camp. Part of boot camp is not just only to get you to cut off your hair and forget who you were and just say, just go hoorah and all that, but also, or that's Army, right? But also part of boot camp is what? Part of going to boot camp is that you also see some bullets go past you, that you see some live fire, right? That you pull some persons through. Sometimes even if it's not live fire, sometimes they just have the sound of bullets, but you can be used to pulling somebody through, because later on there's going to come a time to where you're going to have to fight, and you're going to have to do everything that you saw in boot camp, and you're not going to be able to think about, oh, this is the first time it happened. No, we're training you as if you're going through it right now, which means that when we're going through this, we have to train persons up as if they're going through it right now. We have to treat them as if they're going through it right now, because they are. This is war. I don't know if that's God telling you to shave your head again. Pray about it and see. I'm not here to tell you whether you did or didn't, right? But the main thing is, in all this, know what you're being trained for, and then the last thing you're given is the sword. What is it? The last thing. The sword, which is the word of truth, but the sword is offensive and defensive. The last thing you're given, you have to learn how to defend. See what I'm saying? You gotta, if you started it, you gotta learn how to stay and to stand in it. If you can't defend, watch this. Do you know if we went to war and all we did was be offensive, we would eventually, right? Sometimes you're so powerful they can get away with it. But if you never have any defensive strategy, you end up getting jacked up, right? If you were to go and do guerrilla warfare right now and go to some of these so-called Middle Eastern countries where all this fighting is always taking place, if you don't know how to get down behind a wall and you just run through the streets and you just run it. If you play video games, y'all know this. If you just running, right, and don't make sure you can defend. I don't care if you're playing the GG's game or for the children, if you're playing, first-person games, if you're still into what's the one that everybody likes, that everybody plays on PS5 and stuff. I hear the music in my head and everything with my son. Used to play it all the time. Just kind of phasing out of it a little bit now, but he still plays. What is that called? Fortnite, right? For those of you who've ever played or seen your children play Fortnite or ever watched a video about it, you play Fortnite and you running through, right? You'll get ate up. Because at some point you need to learn defensive measures. You need to learn how to roll at least on the ground, or to go down, or to be behind a wall, or to take a defensive posture and be somewhere where you can snipe somebody or something, right? You got to learn defense, but you also got to, so the gun is offensive, but also if you don't know how to do it from a defensive place, you're going to get caught up. Well, same thing with the sword even more so. I've got the shield, right? But I also have the sword. So the sword can protect, right? While I'm protecting, right, the basics of the fencing, right? Boom, 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 boom. The sword can defend, but if I find a way to get through, I can also strike. But if I can't defend with it, then I shouldn't fight. I shouldn't fight with it. If you don't know how to defend, you'll get caught up pretty easy because all you got to do is run to somebody that knows how to parry, right? Parry and thrust. If you know what that is, right? All you got to do is have somebody that knows how to knock your sword off and strike. That's it, right? If you don't know how to parry, you're in trouble. If you don't know defense, you're in trouble. If you don't know your foot position, you're in trouble. Right? All these things coming together. So, whatever Yah, don't stop what Yah has started. That means if you're with Yah, don't stop what you have started. But don't stop what Yah has started, even before the foundation of the world. Whatever we start, we must stay right in, and whatever we stay in, we got to learn how to stand in. Prayerfully that makes sense. Tada my Shabbat. Thank you for being on, everybody. I really, really, very much so appreciate you. I'll try to do a shout out today. As you can see, I'm really close to traffic, so those of you who've never done a shout out with us before, if you want to come over to TikTok and join us, feel free to. I'm going to try and do one. I don't have my really loud stuff for the shout out today, so it might not work, but we're going to try it and see. If you don't know how the shout out works, just stay over here on TikTok just for a second. I promise you I will explain all that in just a little bit. And thank you for being on. But we very much so appreciate your presence on all platforms today. Thank you for being on the podcast, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. We appreciate you so much. We honor your presence today. Hopefully you caught a lot out of the word. Do not forget, please, ma'am, please, sir, that we are going to be getting, we're basically starting tomorrow all the teaching, at least on my end. Others will teach as well. But all the teachings will be pretty much just going to be on holy days. And we're going to be getting ready in September. Not all these mentioned are holy days, right? There's 3 of them that are holy days. That being said, 4 Hours of Power is going to be on September the 13th. Around Baltimore, I will have an address soon. We'll be in the Baltimore area, or at least Maryland area. So if you want to come, you have a couple of weeks if you'd like to try and come out, especially for those in Maryland, DC, Virginia. But even if anybody else wants to come around, feel free to. After that, we're going to be on the road traveling down south. We're going to try and be in Texas, like the 21st to the 23rd, especially on the 22nd. September 22nd is the Feast of Trumpets. So the Feast of Trumpets. So we'll probably give a word on there, but really the Feast of Trumpets is a celebration. So prayerfully, wherever you are, if you guys would like to get together with each other, assemble, stuff like that, feel free to. But we'll be doing that for Feast of Trumpets. That's September 22nd. And we'll be virtually in spaces for you guys to join us, obviously, but you can come and join us in person. If you like, if you're in the Texas area, we'll be in somewhere in Houston. So those in the Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Grand Prairie, all that area and stuff, we will be in Houston somewhere. So if you'd like to, I know that can be, depending on traffic, hours travel there. So, but we will be in Houston somewhere. Not 100% sure where. We'll have the RV, so more than likely we'll have to be somewhere that's in a park area or something like that. We'll probably do it like throughout the day. We'll probably have a meetup to where we'll meet up with everybody maybe like noonish or something. We'll be wherever we need to be. If you want to come by and just chill out the whole day, but we'll probably do the feast itself, a little later afternoon. But it'll be the 22nd, which that is not a Saturday. That is I think that's like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you might have to take off, maybe a Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, somewhere in there. So for September 22nd, so you have to more than likely take off work if you can. If not, one of the days that we're there, maybe you can come by. But if you'd like to be with us on that day, that'll be there in Texas. October the 1st, we'll be in Georgia, in the Atlanta area, and probably in a park area. I'm gonna get that set up and pay for a spot with the awning and all that. That'll be October the 1st, which I forget what that is here. October the 6th is a Monday. So if I go backwards, so the 8th would be a Wednesday. So October the 1st would be a Wednesday. So if you guys are coming for that, you probably have to take off work for that if you're coming in person. But that'll be in Atlanta, and then we'll be about an hour and a half away from the Atlanta airport, something like that. Right, an hour and a half away from the Atlanta airport, and we'll be in Red Top Mountain State Park in Georgia, October 6th through the 13th. So if you're interested in any of those coming up, and then of course after that, November is going to be men's meetup. That's going to be in the East Coast somewhere, probably Northeast somewhere. And if you'd like to come, I don't know where the women's meeting will be. This year we weren't really able to put that there, so we're probably not going to do a cruise this year like was done last year. Who knows? But there will probably still be a place where the sisters can meet up in December. If you guys would like to. We'll try to get more information on that. If you guys have suggestions on that, let us know. Also, too, don't forget we've been doing our meetings for Feast of Tabernacles coming up. This week will be just one meeting a week. After that, we'll start having 2 meetings every week. One for everybody and one for those that are going to be doing stuff behind the scenes. That also means, so if you can be there for those on Mondays on Zoom at 7 p.m. New York time, we would love to have you on those meetings for Feast of Tabernacles. Also, too, we got to start really realizing like who's coming, what's coming there. If you need, help with finance, or if you need us to just know the stuff is coming in, or, payment, your not even payment, donation, when you plan on being able to give a donation, all those different things, etc. So, or if your children are coming, if there's allergies, who's coming exactly, etc. What we need to help out with, how we need to help out putting tents together or whatever. If you need us to get your tent, if you have tents and sleeping bags that are extra, all these things, you need to start thinking about the actual physical numbers. I'm going to be turning some of that stuff into Sister Renee today, so and tomorrow too. So basically, we need to have all that stuff kind of together. I know we have other persons that are helping, persons that are willing to help out with the big meals, all that stuff. We'll have more stuff to talk about tomorrow, but just kind of keep that stuff in mind. We always talk about this stuff. It's going to be fast or poundy. Before you know it, it's going to happen. And we don't think about it. But sure enough, the stuff just happens. And we're like, oh, yeah, I didn't realize, So that's why we say, like, even last year, we were telling persons, plan it out. It's going to be this week. We were telling persons last year, the dates and all that. We had the land and everything secured, last year that we're going to be on. So, everything's together. Just start thinking this stuff through. It's kind of in this season, especially once it starts rolling, it's going to roll. Also, too, maybe not so much for Feast of Trumpets, but on the Day of Atonement, we're probably going to ask some of our children to help out in a couple of things as far as reading and Feast of Tabernacles as well. There will be a lot of fun stuff for everybody to do during all this, whether you're with us virtually, physically, etc. I'm also looking at having some games for us to play more often. Following what Elder Alma's been doing with the children, for the children to do, but also some more games even for the adults to do. That I think you guys would have some fun with it. I actually kind of have us playing like children online virtually. So we're going to try to kind of pick that stuff back up. We had some other stuff as far as game night before. That stuff was falling through for a little bit, but we're working on getting that stuff together. So just pay attention. There's going to be a lot happening as usual, but we're going to keep moving forward in what y'all has for us. Thank you, family. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to be enjoying Family Day. I appreciate you guys. Hope if you stick around on TikTok, join us for the shout out. You'll see how that works in just a second, and hopefully you enjoy it. I will try my best to get the music together that you guys can hear and see it the best you can. Obviously, we're dealing with some sounds coming through, but I'll try to find something that at least you can kind of get the gist of what's going on. But love y'all to life. Thank you for being with us on the podcast. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, whatever platform. If you joined us after Clapper or IG or whatever the case might be, whatever it is, thank you so much for finding us, joining us. We appreciate you so very much. So I'm going to go ahead and take my leave. I shall see you guys very soon. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. I believe Minister Samela Ray is giving the word tomorrow for Early Rise Bible Study session. And then we'll be back on the live session. Like I said, tomorrow we're pretty much going to start focusing in on Holy Days. So we're probably focusing on Leviticus chapter 23, and we'll start from there. All right, but love y'all to life. You all take care. Thank you for being on. We appreciate the Malachi and each and every one of you. And until we have a chance to be before you again, we hope that you remember that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, Shalom, take care, peace, and blessings.